What's up, everyone? Welcome to GameFace, episode 192 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. We are sitting 2 days away from Thanksgiving. I know a lot of you guys may be traveling right now. I fully expect our live audience on Twitch to be smaller today because I know a lot of you guys are getting ready to travel to see family or friends or something like that. And I hope that you can take this podcast with you as you travel along to see the people that you care about most.
Although the European people have no excuse.
That's true. It's Thanksgiving only in America, not even in Canada. Canada has its own Thanksgiving as well.
Canada already did it.
Yeah, Canada's already happened. But it is a big holiday here in the U.S. It's weird living in L.A. during Thanksgiving. I do not go home for Thanksgiving. I haven't gone home in like 15 years or something.
Neither do I.
It's bizarre being here during Thanksgiving.
Yeah, because you can get somewhere.
It's like the world ended, though. I mean, it's that
I'm okay with that.
Desolate. It's just weird. So Thanksgiving's coming up in a couple days. Hopefully you guys have some great plans for that. December is also coming up very quickly. We're working on dossier for December right now, and oh lordy, December. I'm glad we're going to be gone halfway through December, and one of our episodes is a game of the year because there is not a lot of stuff coming out for the rest of the year.
I mean, we're pretty much done.
Yeah, I mean, we've pretty much hit it at this point.
The last big game came out, and
we'll be talking
about
that. Anyway, so December's coming up. It'll be Christmas, the holidays, etc. I am going to be playing Santa in December on our Patreon. So I went back and actually counted all the loot boxes we have, and we actually have 6. So 6 loot boxes are going to be given away in December to people who are pledging $20 or more per month. There's not a ton of them, so if you get up into that tier for December, you could give us a little bit of a Christmas gift to thank us for the year and all the stuff that we've done. Or you could also just win yourself a loot box, a gaming loot box. So 6 for December. You might want to bump up your pledge before December to just maybe give us a little tip or to put your hat or your ticket in the hat to try to win one of our loot boxes. So it was tough getting a show together for today. There's not a lot of stuff going on. Everything's kind of winding down. And this week, obviously, is winding down. A lot of people are going to be leaving. So probably a lot of the gaming sites are going to be pretty dead over the next 4 or 5 days. We'll keep curating on Sifted, but don't expect a ton of content rolling through there over the next few days. Probably not until really next Monday when everybody gets back and we have that little window in between Thanksgiving and Christmas before we all take off again.
Yeah, and pretty much just be Black Friday sales reports.
Yep. Oh, by the way, on Black Friday, first of all, we are doing a Black Friday sale on our shirts. They're going to be $15 down from $25, and that will go all weekend, starting on Thursday morning and then running all through the weekend. Probably end of day Sunday will end the sale. So jump in there if you haven't got one of our latest shirts. You're going to get it at the cheapest price possible. We should probably get going, though. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk first about the biggest game of the week, the only big game of the week, and really the last big game, although now I wonder if I should call it that.
I mean, it's not a big game so much as what it is, more of a big game because of what it represented.
Yeah.
Like, yet another thing that people would talk about when this is never coming out, and then it did come out. I mean, between this and what was it? Between this and Last Guardian and Final Fantasy VII Remake, all we got left is Half-Life 3.
Pretty much. And we're going to talk about Half-Life in the show here because that's starting to kind of come around as well. Obviously, we're talking about Shenmue III. The game that we all thought we would never see. It was crowdfunded. How many people ultimately were in on the crowdfunding? Like 80,000 or something?
I don't know.
It was like 70 or 80,000 people chipped in money to make sure that this game was ultimately made. Interviews with Yu Suzuki, the franchise's shepherd and developer, over the last couple of months have indicated that even after this game, you're only about 40% through the storyline of Shenmue that he kind of already has mapped out. Matt, do you think there will be a Shenmue 4?
No.
Me either. Let's start talking about the game.
I don't know what would have to happen for that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe enough people like this that backed it that then back it again. I don't know. I can't imagine this is going to sell tremendously well at retail.
Well, I'll put it to you this way. I went in and I bought it with my own money on launch day. I went into Best Buy and they had piles of this game. Piles.
Well, Best Buy had the Steelbook deal, so
Okay.
they must have had some tie-in with it because they're the ones where you buy it there, you get a Steelbook. You can still get the Steelbook.
You'll be able to buy the Steelbook.
I believe
for the
it's down to $35 now. So if you would like a Shenmue 3 Steelbook,
I think you'll be able to buy that Steelbook 10 years from now, probably.
I mean they'll send that shit back in 6 months, but
Yeah.
it's gonna sit there a while.
So let's talk about the game, as it were. I sometimes struggled in my playtime with this to actually call it a game.
I mean, as much as any, like, there's
Adventure game
walking
is.
simulators these days that are less of a game, I guess.
That's true.
But, are better written.
Yeah.
So, in the name of full disclosure, I am I am a backer on this game. I backed it for $175, which got me a physical copy of it, and eventually an art book. Which hasn't arrived yet.
That's an expensive art book.
So all right, I am a backer. I threw in on this. I have all the old games. I played the old games. I have a framed poster of Shenmue 2 signed by Yu Suzuki himself on my wall, and I do not like this game. like at all.
This game is awful.
I am shocked by how much I do not like this.
It is one of the worst games. And look, I'm lucky. I generally only have to, quote unquote, have to play the better games. Usually games that are this high profile or this big of a deal, they end up being much better than this game. Mm-hmm. So because it is a big deal and I knew I had to play it, I played it. And it is, in my estimation, absolutely abysmal. It is one of the worst games I've played in the last 5 years. I don't even know where to begin with the issues with this game.
Well, my issue with it, so, like, I did replay 1 and 2 on the remasters, and I liked them fine. They were, but there was a lot of nostalgia there, and there was a lot of like, oh, I remember this part. This part. This was weird. Like that was there, and like there was a fondness for it. And when it turns out when you remove the fondness for the awkward presentation and like as a thing I remember from back in the day and apply it to a new game that I don't have any emotional attachment to beyond I wonder what happens next, and it turns out that what happens next is spending days on end vaguely babbling at people in a village.
The same 10 people.
It's not nearly as entertaining. And I'll tell you, so my biggest problem with the game is actually not a thing they didn't change, but a thing they did change, which is the stamina system.
Oh, yeah.
The stamina system is one of the dumbest things I've seen in one of the dumbest stamina systems I've seen in a game in a very long time. Basically, what happens is as soon as you leave the house in the morning, your life starts to drop.
Yep.
And it drops faster if you run.
Yep.
And there's no way to stop it.
Yep.
So by the time you get from Shenhua's house down to the village, you've basically burned two dots of life. And you have to continually feed Ryo to keep the life up. And early on, that's a problem because you don't have a lot of money and you can't afford food.
I had a major problem because I found like the mini games part of the village and just went and basically spent all my money on tokens. And I have no money. So at first, I couldn't even play the game, Matt, because I'd have to basically do one thing, go back to the house, sleep.
I mean, that's basically how, well, in 8 hours of this game, I have done what would take a normal game 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, you just got to go talk to people, but you run out of life, and then you have to decide, well, do I want to run out of life again? And just because every time you chuck food in a Ryo, it just burns out again. Like, you just waste, and even, like, running is a waste of food, a waste of resources. So, like, once you get down to 3 dots of life, it turns yellow. And if you run while you're yellow, it drops much faster, but it will replenish up to 3
dots.
Unless you get down to the 1 dot, at which point it turns red. And if you run out of that last dot, he passes out.
He collapses.
He collapses from hunger. 20 minutes after he left home in the morning.
Literally, like, so you sleep in a house, the same house every night, and then you wake up, you go and you have breakfast, and then you leave, and it is literally probably a 1 mile walk from the house to the village. If you run the whole way from the house where you start to the village, by the time you get to the village, you have like 4 dots left.
Yeah, and you can fast travel, but it still takes dots away.
It does, yeah.
So about roughly what it would take to walk there.
Yeah.
So the counter for this is to do martial arts training outside the martial hall to up your endurance level, which eventually gives you more life. So at this point, I have like almost a full circle of life, But I still run down to 3 by the time I get to where I'm going in a timely manner and talk to whoever I'm talking, because you're still losing life while you're talking to people and while things are going on. And so the upshot of that is, because it's not just stamina, it's your life bar. You can get into a story mandated fight at any given time, and you've got 3 life pips left.
You have no chance.
And you can't restore health during combat unless you have snake bite juice, which sells for like 210 yuan,
which is a lot
at the stores. Whereas it restores 50% of your health, and whereas a caterpillar fungus, which restores 900 hit points, which is pretty much like 2/3 of my life bar at this point, that's like 17 yuan. Yeah. It's nothing. And you can earn that by chopping wood for the store owner, and like you earn like 50 to 70 yuan depending on what how much wood you chop.
Which is really the only way to make money initially.
Yeah, they encourage you to sell herbs to the same store owner, but like the faster way to do it early on is to chop wood. Eventually, you will pick up enough herbs to sell. Like the maximum herb collection sells for like 830, which is like more than enough to get you through that early section of the game. But it really is just systems layered on systems attempting to slow you down for no reason whatsoever.
And that often don't work in concert with each other and kind of butt heads with each other. The whole game to me, I mean, I'm wondering, honestly, if this game wasn't done, actually, or close to done, back in 2001, 2002. There's just certain quirks about, it's like when you're having a conversation with someone, you can still see the game with your own eyes, sifting through the various video clips that it's trying to play based upon how the conversation is going.
There are jump cuts to different animation clips.
And he'll say the wrong thing. Like, you'll talk to people. Like I said, there's when you first start in the village, there's 10 people. And you have to talk to them over and over. At first, there's this one mystery. You have to ask everybody about that. You figure that out. Then thugs are showing up. Then you have to ask everybody about the thugs. And then it just cycles through one thing after another.
Which does lead to some classic Shenmue-style things where, Shenmue's introducing you to, the people in the village, and she's like, this is my friend Ryo. Oh, you're the Japanese boy that's been wandering around the village. How are you, Ryo? I'm looking for thugs. Have you seen any? It's just it's like no time passed at all. I remember, I've been saying in the run up to this game that you got to think of it as a remaster of a Shenmue 3 that came out on Dreamcast in 2003.
That's what.
And I really didn't know how literal that I was.
You were right on the money
when I said that. And it's this is Unreal Engine 4, so all the presentational quirks of Shenmue, they're not part of just what they had to work with here. They're being replicated.
It seems like these are
choices.
That's bad choices.
They're choosing to have the awkward pause between every line of dialogue in this. They are having the voice actors read these things like corpses that have never seen English before. The awkward translation seems to be intentional, because I know enough people with English experience were on this game. Early on, you talk to this guy in the village, and he's obsessed with fishing. Later on, it becomes clear he's the fisherman of the village, and he says, "Hey," he's like, "Excuse me, can you?" And he says, "Hey, you're Japanese, aren't you?" And he goes, "Yeah." And the guy says, "Oh, Japan's a wonderful country. Huge, tall mountains and deep streams. Great for fishing." You're not wrong. What do you mean?
You're not wrong a million times.
What do you mean? Don't you fish? It's not really my thing. Well, I don't want to talk to someone who doesn't even know. That's literally, I'm not kidding. That's literally what he says.
No, I know. And it happens over and over.
And it's just stuff like that all the time.
Inane conversations.
The first few conversations I had, the lines didn't even match each other. It was like, I don't know who you are. Why would I help you? Oh, I see. And
what they're saying doesn't match the subtitles.
Yeah, the subtitles are weird.
So they've changed the script at some point. I guess they got the subtitles into the game, and then maybe while they were doing live reads, they realized that the way the script was written wasn't working, and they changed it while they're recording the voiceover.
Good job.
And never updated the subtitles.
I mean, usually the subtitles are done
last.
So yeah. It's
but with this game,
probably just errors.
I really have no idea.
So, I mean, there is a ton of content. I believe it took them as long as it took them to make this, but, what they made was probably inadvisable.
Yeah.
And again, I would not be struggling with this so much if it wasn't for the stamina system that gets in your way constantly, And eventually it does become trivial to afford enough food to keep him constantly topped up. But at that point, why are you even wasting my time with a stupid stamina system? Like, just let me play the game. And then the other half is the problem is, of course, this is not made by Sega anymore, which means, A, you lose all the Sega-branded stuff, which takes a little fun out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, instead of collecting capsule toys of Virtua Fighter and Fantasy Zone, you're collecting capsule toys of fishing lures.
Yeah.
And, like, the first time that I put a coin in and got, which they didn't even animate opening the capsule toy. That's not even there. So you don't even get that satisfaction. And he holds up like this orange fishing lure in his hand. And he goes, "That's cool." And it's like, no, it's not, Rio.
Buying
it's
a
not
fishing
cool.
lure out of a gumball machine is not cool.
It's not cool. And so here you see the fighting. Obviously, it can't be like Virtua Fighter the way the old games were because it's not Sega anymore. But the system they made to replace it is awful.
It really is.
Like, it is weird and mushy and non-responsive, and it feels like you're underwater all the time.
It feels like your attacks don't land when they should land as well.
Like, there's no feeling of like impact when you hit anything, like, and like there's the indication of like when things are blocked and not blocked is weird. Dodging doesn't really work properly, so you're stuck blocking all the time. Like, combat's pretty easy, but it's not fun.
Nope.
It's not like I used to look forward to getting in fights in the Shenmue games, like the 100-man battle in the first game was like a
legendary.
huge treat, and I would not want to fight more than like 3 people in a row in this fucking game.
Yeah, I agree. It is. I don't like everything about this game other than the environmental art.
Yeah,
but even
it looks
this,
nice.
Even this, though, it's like you see it, you're like, that's gorgeous, but then you stay in that little, like, 1 mile square area for the first, like,
and you're
10
stuck.
hours.
Like, if you, like, in the early part of the game, like, you
can't go that way.
You can't go that far. Like, where you saw him running there, if you go that far early on, he'll just turn around and say, I have no business there. I should turn back.
Yeah.
And, like, so basically what you're limited to doing is you go out to one place, you talk to the person you're supposed to talk to, and whatever happens there happens. Sometimes you got to search the area. Sometimes you got to fight somebody. And then you're basically stuck. Like, you don't have enough stamina unless you want to burn resources to feed him. And like you probably need to earn money, or you probably need to like level up his stamina or his fighting anyway. So you just waste time training until night falls, and you're forced to go back to Shenhua's house and talk to her about inane things for a while. That is actually one thing I did like is the relationship between him and Shenhua builds a little bit the more you talk to her each night. And eventually it's kind of fun where like they start disagreeing about things, and it kind of feels almost like human beings.
Yeah.
But the one of the things I really liked is she has her room and he sleeps in a separate room. And early in the game, he wakes up in the morning because his alarm on his watch goes off. And then as you get to know her better, she leans her head in and says, "Hey, it's morning." And then later you get to know her more, and she comes in and says, "It's morning." And then like now she comes in and like shakes his shoulder and says, "Get up, it's morning." And it just shows that they're more comfortable with each other, which is a nice progression. But it's the only source of human warmth and interaction that I find in this game so far. Lucky Hit is back, as you can see, and he actually reacts to that. I thought that was pretty funny when you first run into a Lucky Hit game. Like they said, "How about a game of Lucky Hit?" And Ryo goes, "Oh, here too." Yeah. Like, that's pretty funny. Like, there's moments where they're clearly aware of things.
But there are also many moments.
There's also when you're like, it's just not.
Where they're not aware.
Yeah.
Like the opening cinematic.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, where it just stalled there. In the opening cinematic, when they're walking to the village, that whole scene is so awful. I laughed my ass off.
It's rough.
And not because it was trying to be intentionally funny, just the conversation, the way it was cutting between it's just bad.
It's also just weird in that, like, Shenmue 2, I always was fired up at the end of that. Not because the end of Shenmue 2 is like an hour of walking with her and talking, which at the time was a pretty bold way to end a game. And like you get to the cave and all the things burn up and light up, and you see like the mirrors on the wall, and you're like, and like there's a floating sword. They have the vision of a sword, and like you're like, oh, like magic is real, and like, oh, shit's just going crazy. Like, what the hell is gonna happen next? And like, it turns out what happens next is they just go home, and then they go to the village and start asking people where thugs hang out, and it's just like. It's like the Shenmue 2 was this great rising action of this crazy thing, and then like the beginning of this is just bam, like,
and then you're
back
stuck in
the
that
basement.
village forever.
You're stuck in the village forever. There's two major locations: the village and the surrounding valley, and then like there's a more urban place later. But like, it's like a 40-hour game. But like, if you didn't have to deal with the stamina and sleeping and the time periods and stuff, like, it's like.
It would be tolerable.
It would be much. It would be half the length, maybe less.
It would be half the length, and it might be tolerable to play.
Right. Like, if you could mod out the stamina and I could just run everywhere and get shit done, I would, like in the other two games. Like, because the thing is, like, early on in Shenmue 1 and 2, especially Shenmue 1, because it was a new thing. Like, I remember wandering around trying to figure out what to do for hours and hours and hours, and finally figuring, oh, they want me to talk to these people and go over here. And then, like, once I played it a second time. I mean, part of that was because it was in Japanese. Then the second time I played it was the American version in English, and I remember I would just beeline through the whole thing. I'm like, oh, I don't even need to ask. I know where I need to go. Yeah. I don't even need to ask people. I can just go places. But part of that was because I didn't have to cram pears in my mouth every 5 seconds so I didn't fall over. Right. Like, it's just so weird.
This whole game feels like it's just been hacked together with, like, Scotch tape. Like, it almost feels like every piece of it was built, like, at some other place, and then they all came together and, like, taped it all together into a video game. But,
like, I also feel like it wouldn't surprise me if you were to find out that it actually wasn't, and all of this was intentional.
It's just idiotic.
Well, because so much of it is just they're recreating the quirks of the old games that we've played Unreal Engine 4 games where you don't have pauses between
weird loading.
Like, you're choosing that. Like, why is there a load screen in the house, in Shenhua's house, when you get up on the cooking mat area, like the eating area?
No idea.
And then you go back down and there's another load time. And it's not even like at first I'm like, oh, maybe because he takes his shoes off and puts his shoes back on. But there's a blank load screen, and then it comes back and shows him put his shoes on. And I'm like, well, if that was all it was, you just cover the load time with the shoes, the shoe animation. Yeah. But they don't. It literally goes to black.
They don't do any of the modern tricks of game development.
I have so many questions. Like, don't do Final Days of Half-Life Alyx. Do Final Days of Shenmue 3, because I want to know what the hell happened.
That actually would be, I think, way more interesting, to be perfectly honest with you. How do you think the backers are going to feel about this game?
I mean, most of the backers that I've seen seem to be pretty positive on it.
You think this is what they wanted all along?
I guess.
A broken game from 1999?
I guess. I mean, I was hoping for like a little. I mean, look, I would be more or less happy with it if the stamina system wasn't in the way and the fighting system wasn't so clunky.
Yeah.
If you had just made Shenmue again and this was all it was, like, I'd be fine. But I feel like you did this needless addition that just makes it more tedious, and making Shenmue more tedious is kind of an achievement.
It's hard. How do you do that?
Not needed.
No.
Like, it doesn't add anything, and it just makes me annoyed when I watch that life bar dripping down. It's really weird.
Even the story sucks. Like, just nothing happens.
Like, there's no build to. I mean, there is a build to it, because eventually you run into old characters. You know, the old characters from the previous games are finally starting to show up, and everything's starting to come together. I see where they're going with it. But I'm not very far. I mean, I looked at a synopsis of the story, and I'm like a sixth of the way through the game, 8 hours in, after all this tedious back and forth, and like I'm going through looking through the notebook, and I'm like, yeah, this is like a third full. But like, it's because there's all this extra space in there. I don't know. It's bizarre.
But you think the backers will be okay?
I mean, I'm on
They'll
the
be happy.
I mean, I'm on the Kickstarter looking at the comments. It's mostly people thanking them.
Really?
So, like, and even the reviews, like, even if the reviews are like in like the 6s and 7s, they're like, it boldly ignores the lessons of the last 18 years of game design. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I mean, I was real hard on Death Stranding, but I have to thank Shenmue 3 for reminding me what boredom really is.
Oh, Death Stranding is way better than this.
Like, this just is not holding my attention.
This is unpolished boring. At least Death Stranding is crazy polished, and like and at least it's kind of like here. So
two very different approaches to tedium as game design.
Definitely. And like when you first start this, there's like a wrap up video that shows you the story. Even that is so horribly produced. Like,
yeah, that's not good either.
I mean, it's like some first day YouTuber cut it together for him. Like, just everything about this game to me screams cut corners. I do wonder, like you, if some of this stuff was intentional. I have a hard time believing that it is, though.
I mean, there's no other explanation for the pausing and the dialogue. I mean, they got that dialogue performance intentionally. They put those pauses in there intentionally.
It's so weird.
I mean, I don't think they intended the combat to be as mushy as it is. That's obviously just a thing they did as well as they could, and that was all they got. Especially, it's weird because they have to replicate all his moves without replicating the Virtua Fighter feeling system.
And that's where his moves came from.
And that's where his moves came from. And it's also like so they're all done differently, and it's most of us, like, a lot of them are done by holding L2, and like like I'm not happy with any of it.
I think it's awful.
Except the environments. Like I think the environments are pretty. I don't think they're very impressive once you start looking at stuff up close. But I think it's a striking location they chose. Like it's very pretty and it's very much an upgrade in terms of graphics from what the other two did, which is one of the few things you can say that are an upgrade.
Yeah.
I'm glad my pledge included the art book because I bet that's going to look really cool.
Yeah. That's the best part of the game.
Yeah, the environments, I should say, not the characters. Like, the characters are so hit or miss.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mind Ryo, but like some characters look like real people, and other characters look like cartoons, and there's no coherence in the art style between them. There's also this thing where like Ryo is one of the few eligible young men in the village. In the village, yeah. And a lot of the women in the village hit on him, and he's not into that because Ryo is revenge-asexual. Ryo only wants revenge. He does not want to have anything to do with
he's never really had any relationships with girls.
Well, he had that one girl from his hometown, and they rode on the motorcycle before he left to go take revenge. And they get into it, and like actually at one point he can say that one of his flaws is that he's cold and distant.
Oh,
and
that's accurate.
And Shenmue's like, I don't think that's true. I'm like, it's true. Yes. It's very true. Trust me, I've spent more time with this kid than you have. He's very, very cold and distant. But like when someone hits on him, like he doesn't like that, and he like kind of makes this face where he narrows his eyes and like sneers his lips, and he looks almost exactly like the cat in that meme with the woman screaming at the cat. Like he has that same kind of disgusted look on his face, and I'm just like, man, somebody needs to cut Ryo making that face out and put him behind the vegetable plate. So I mean, I laugh when that happens, so I guess that it does bring me some joy in that regard. But like it's just weird that like sometimes you see people like those two characters look pretty much like real people, and then sometimes you run into like the first stonemason you talk to, whose daughter looks normal, by the way, but her father looks like someone out of a Popeye cartoon. Yeah. It's bizarre. Like I don't know what they're after.
There's a lot of character models like that in this game.
I'm a little surprised. I'm like, if I sound a little more irritated than normal about this stuff, it's because I was expecting to at least find this. I was expecting this conversation to be like you hating the game and me being like, oh, it's Shenmue, it's fine. But I bounced off this game so hard it was like I chugged a bottle of gummy berry juice before I started playing it. It was. I was not ready for how much I don't like this game.
I played it for 6 hours and I'll never go back.
Like
I fought to get to those 6 hours. Like there was points in this last week where I'm like, okay, this is the week where my job's a job. It's one of the weeks of the year where I'm not enjoying doing what I have to do for my job, and that's
like
just life.
There definitely been a couple of times.
That's how work is.
Well, I guess I should play more Shenmue because I got to talk about it on Tuesday. I sat down and forced myself to do it instead of like almost any other game I'd want to play. Anything.
Yep, me too. I would rather play Death Stranding. I would rather go back and finish that off than play this.
Yeah, because that's also on my. They're both on my PS4. And a couple times I looked at Death Stranding next to it because it's the last thing I played on PS4 before Shenmue. And a couple times I looked there and I'm like, I wonder how many people have driven over my roads. I should look.
Yeah, is
the chat too young to know what gummy berry juice is?
Probably.
Are we out of the gummy bear world?
90s, somebody got it. Gummy bears reference for the win. Yeah.
That's got to be on Disney Plus, right?
Probably.
Go watch that. It's pretty good. It's old Saturday morning cartoon.
But I mean, we've come a long way since someone fell out of their chair when this game was announced and flipped backwards out of their seat. Like I remember when that day happened, I pretty much said right then that this game's probably gonna suck.
I mean, if you fall backwards out of your chair while playing this game, it's because you fell asleep.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
And that's why I play it on a couch.
I mean, look, I'm not as big a Shenmue fan as you, but I'm definitely a fan. Like, I loved the first two games. I was trying to dig out my old Shenmue t-shirt that's now 20-some years old to wear on the show today. And it's so old that one of the sleeves on the t-shirt, the threading rotted and the sleeve fell off of it.
Wow.
So I did not wear it in here. I got to cut the other one off.
Although it would have been pretty appropriate.
Yeah, it would have. It absolutely would have. So I like Shenmue. I liked it back in 1999 to 2001. It was bleeding edge tech. It was like the best thing going then. Do you think that this is a trap for developers who are trying to revive franchises? Because you have the most dedicated fans giving you the money to make it. And then maybe you question, well, maybe I need to make sure that I make this game exactly like what they're asking for.
I mean, I think that you were walking a tightrope with this game one way or the other, and I don't know how well they balanced this in the end. It didn't balance very well for me, but it's like, I mean, I acknowledge that you can't just make Yakuza and call it Shenmue 3.
Yeah.
Like that's true. But like, And again, my main thing is the stamina and the fighting, which, like, those are the two things that really are the worst parts for me, and those are the two things that are different. They aren't things that they kept the same. They're two things that changed. One by necessity, because it's not a Sega game anymore. But the stamina, no one made you put the fucking stamina in there. Like, what the hell? Like, if I was, like, if you were gonna do anything for this game, you want to give me an option to turn that off, I will go and play it again.
Yeah.
But like, I hate it. I hate weird arbitrary limitations. Like, I mean, it's the same reason I hate weapon degradation.
And I hate encumbrance. Like,
there's like, you're just slowing me down.
That's
for
the holy
no reason.
trinity of suck.
Yeah. At least they don't have that.
Right. Yeah.
It's like the worst thing here would be like if you also can only carry so many black onions.
Right. And then you have to manage like
your arms break if you punch too often.
Yeah, I'm sad for people who are really excited for this game. I think a lot of people will ultimately say it's exactly what they wanted, no matter whether they actually think it's good or bad or not. But I think if people are honest with themselves, they're going to admit that this game is a big steaming pile of crap.
Yeah, if you took the stamina out and made the fighting better, I would be more in line with the 7 out of 10 range.
Yeah. I could never get there.
But like, because then it would just be Shenmue again. And that's not ideal,
not a 7 out of 10 in 2019.
But it's not. But we'll see. I mean, I would be able to see if there's better things later in the game.
Yeah.
As far as I understand, there's a whole lot of forklift racing again.
Yeah.
Because I guess that was expected. I don't know.
I mean, it is.
Yeah.
It's a meme from Shenmue, so it does seem like...
Where's my book carrying minigame?
Yeah.
The other thing is, like, they changed kind of how the QTEs work, where, like, if you fail a QTE in this game, it
doesn't matter.
It just resets. It just resets it and you do it again. Whereas that happens sometimes with like life or death QTEs in the old games. But part of the appeal was like if you missed a QTE, there was consequences, but it continued on. I mean, that's where Heavy Rain comes from. Is like and Indigo Prophecy is like the idea of failing is a choice. Like, failing is also
an option,
a choice. And that's not. There's the guy who looks like the Popeye reject. Like, what the hell is that?
Look
like,
at his eyes.
Like, that's not not an invalid character design for a different game, but it doesn't look like anybody in this game.
It doesn't fit.
And you run into like 1 out of 10 characters looks like that, and it's bizarre.
It is weird.
I don't get it.
It's like some of them are stylized.
Yeah, which is not how Shenmue really.
No, it's not.
It's not how Shenmue rolls. I mean, you can open every frickin' drawer in this game, but there's nothing in them, which is also true of the old games, but it takes more button presses to do it in this one.
An extra button press for every drawer.
I wonder if that was a limitation of the Unreal Engine somehow, or something they didn't feel like rewriting and just like kind of went the path of least resistance. And I also feel it doesn't explain things very well most of the time. Like, sometimes it over-explains certain things.
The combat, it doesn't really explain it at all.
No, the only way to learn combat is really to go, and they don't tell you really this either, is to go back to the martial arts place and spar. Fighting and sparring are two different things.
Yep.
Fighting is a real fight that drains your health to advance through the ranks. Sparring is just practice. You don't hit each other. You just practice and level up your moves. So, like, basically the only way to learn how the combat system works is to spar over and over again until you figure out, oh, that's how this works.
And it does pay off because it does increase your attributes when you spar.
Yeah, it raises your attack, so like you can you hit harder, and I mean the training does have results. It's just
boring.
It is boring and repetitive. I mean, if you want a game, again, like Death Stranding, if you want a game where you turn the subtitles on and turn the sound down and just listen to podcasts or watch YouTube videos or whatever while you play this is perfect.
It's another time waster.
Total time. I mean, you're practically playing a clicker game.
Pretty much.
At a certain point.
Yeah.
And like, I'm interested in the story. I'm interested in what happens in this story.
But
it won't let me do it.
I cannot believe that he finally got the opportunity to create another Shenmue, and he did not have the foresight to see that, hey, you know what? I probably need to move this plot along a little more quickly.
Yeah.
Because if they're after this game,
I could have talked to one stonemason instead of 4.
Right. Like if after this game, if they're only at 40%, we're never going to see 100%. No. Like after this game, we should have been at like 60 or 70% of the story. And then if somehow
you need one more to finish it off, like maybe like give this like a functional ending, but like leave it for like there's more to do if you get a chance. Shenmue 4 finishes the series off.
Done.
And then we can all rest.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, at least that story arc is done.
Right.
And then if you introduce something at the end of Shenmue 4 and there's demand for it, then maybe you move forward with a new protagonist or something. But Dude, once I found out that this story moves forward by like an inch, like that completely dashed my motivation to fight through the other crap in the game to keep playing. Like, I was like, wait a minute, I'm going to be in this same village. And I mean, let's be honest, that village is like one square. That's all it is. It's that little area we've seen in this B-roll with the well in the middle and the people milling around it. And you're stuck there.
There's like 5 little
houses, hamlets, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane. Like, I just feel like he lost himself making this game.
Big gambling culture here, though.
Yeah.
Like, there's this whole, like, random... And I think all the gambling mini games were actually... I think they were stretch goals.
No.
So that might be why they're so weird and out of place, is they
That could
just
be.
plopped them down so you
Like
can
the
play
turtle
them
racing?
Yeah.
What the hell? Like...
It's a like they talk about how it's a rural village and there's nowhere to really go and they aren't in a hurry to do anything except there's like bookies everywhere.
Right. People love to gamble for some reason.
I mean, everyone loves to gamble, but it just seems very institutionalized.
Yeah.
There's like a random girl up in one of the other areas of the village that just buys your tokens in exchange for prizes, and then you take those prizes literally across the street to the pawn shop to sell them for money.
Which is kind of accurate, because in Japan, if you play pachinko and you win, you don't cash out at the pachinko parlor. You walk across the street to some place where you sell the balls for money.
But A, you're not in Japan, and B, like... Really? Like it, like in like a rural. I mean, why would you even have that formalized a construct in this village? Like you would just have people playing dice with each other, and like you can also play like some weird rock paper scissors game with your face. Against Shenmue, and like it's just weird things like so. Like I guess you're supposed to make a certain face for rock and then a different one for paper and scissors, and you just both do it at the same time. And the gimmick is that like you both make weird faces at each other, but like every time you win, she like wants to do it again, and every time you to get it back at you, and every time you lose, she's like, let's play again. And if you ever say let's stop, she goes, oh, you're no fun. So basically, if you don't want to disappoint her, you're stuck like playing until it gets so late. She's like, we should stop for now. And I'm like, all right, like.
I just feel like Yu Suzuki lost his way with this game. I think he was torn between making a game that might actually be good, but making sure that the people who gave him the money to make the game would be happy with it. And I think you ended up with like a few of one and half a dozen of another, and they're both crap.
Yeah, I don't know. I just turned into Michael Booth. I don't know what I expected. I mean, Shenmue III, dead dove, do not eat. But here we are.
Yeah, I thought this
game
would be...
I tried to eat the dead dove, and I'm just not getting there.
I had low expectations for this game, particularly once we saw that first little patch of gameplay. But this just completely comes in way under my expectation. I never dreamed this game would be this bad. It could have been, like, make it 15 hours. And, I mean, with the amount of content that you have, locations that you have... There's no reason this game is 40 hours.
I mean, you take out the tedium and the gatekeeping of the various systems you're stuck with, and it is 15 hours.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. So, to go back to...
And I can't even watch, like, a YouTube video because all the stuff, it still takes that long.
Yeah, I know. You still have to sit through all the other crap. So, I know I asked this right at the beginning. You don't think that we'll ever see Shenmue 4?
I mean, I don't know what this is selling unless like they made enough money from the Kickstarter to like pay for it already, and someone, you know, if Deep Silver is still interested. I mean, Deep Silver has put out sequels to weirder things, so I'm not going to say never, but it would surprise me.
Yeah.
Like I don't see this as being a breakout hit or anything.
I would say this. I think if there is another Shenmue game, I think whoever signs the game is going to be a lot more stern with.
Yeah. Well, and also I would say you got to go back to Sega. Not to necessarily publish, but like you got to get Sega's branding back in this thing, because like being able to go to the arcade and play Space Harrier and like collect the interesting like it's part of the charm, and it was really lost something now that you're literally collecting gemstone toys, tennis rackets, like it's
fishing lures.
It's really dumb. Like it doesn't, none of that stuff works, and part of the fun of that was watching. You know, like, okay, well, I got to do the capsule toy thing, but hey, look, I've collected, you know, all the Fantasy Zone guys, all the Virtua Fighter guys, all, you know, that's all the Sonic characters. Like, there's a charm to that just isn't there when you take that away. And I know I'm an old Sega fan. Obviously, I was going to miss that. And it doesn't ruin the game for me or anything, but it is part of it. Like it makes.
Oh, the game handles ruining the game. Fine.
It makes part. I mean, it makes partial sense. And you're in a rural Chinese town in 1987. Probably not going to be a Sega Land arcade there. But like, if you're going to move out of that area and move into like a more cosmopolitan thing, like it's kind of imperative that you figure out a way to get some of that back in, or some kind of classic arcade stuff back in. Even if it's not Sega, just go, I don't know, talk to Taito or something. Like anyone who's willing to put their old arcade games in to give it a little verisimilitude.
I think it's dead. I think Shenmue, the franchise, is dead. This kills it. I just can't see anybody. I can't even see fans willing to invest in Shenmue 4 at this point. Like
I certainly
would have to do another Kickstarter for Shenmue 4.
Yeah.
I don't think any publisher is just going to hand him money to make another one. And I think, honestly, once the fans really get over the initial shock of, oh my God, I'm playing a new Shenmue game, I think they're also going to realize that it's a piece of crap.
Well, Vincent says it was top 20 in the UK.
I mean,
which for that game
doesn't mean much, though.
But for that game,
I mean, that could be like 800 sales.
For that game. I mean, they already sold what they sold to Kickstarter.
Well, they've already made the money because they wouldn't have made it if they didn't have enough money from the Kickstarter to make the game.
So really the determining factor is probably how Deep Silver feels the sentiment's going from the backers.
Yeah.
Because those are your guaranteed sales one way or the other.
But Deep Silver, does it actually benefit from that backers money? I mean, I guess it got the game developed for free.
Yeah. Basically, it got to publish it. I don't know what the deal was there.
Yeah, it would be interesting to dig into that, how that works. After you come off a Kickstarter. Yeah,
there's a lot more interesting stories to dig into here than with almost any.
And actually, the story of the development of the game is probably more interesting than the game itself.
Yeah, the two games I really want, the two games I would, like my dream Jason Schreier deep dive, like anonymous source digging expedition would be this and Star Citizen.
Oh, yeah.
Like those
he may be working on Star Citizen already, honestly.
I hope so, because wow.
Because it needs to be worked on.
I actually did watch the CitizenCon keynote.
Did you?
This weekend. And, what?
They put out one trailer.
It was
from
one
that
trailer.
Thing for a ship.
And the gameplay demo, like the big reveal was there's a jump gate now, and you have to navigate through like the space, the universe's colon, basically, in a tube to get to the other side. And everyone's freaking out. Oh my God, they did it! Oh my God! I'm like, it's a jump gate. Every other space game in the world has it, except now it's an annoying mini game.
Beggars can't be choosers. That's what it comes down to. They're so desperate for anything exciting about the game.
And everyone complains.
There's so much skin in the game.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, everyone comes. All the fans are like, "Oh, it's a scam." No, if you think it's a scam, like I don't think it's a scam. Look, I'm into that game for a fair amount of money, but I do think it's kind of a grift at this point.
Yeah.
I don't think this was a grift. I don't think Shenmue 3 was a grift. I feel like they pretty much did what they said they were going to do, but. It just turns out that isn't what I want anymore. And maybe part of
I knew that.
And maybe part of it is that I replayed the first two games earlier this year, and I've had enough of that.
Yeah.
But again, I keep going back to like the two things I really don't like in this game are new.
Yeah.
So you should have made it more old or more new, but not like this halfway old, and then like we're going to insert the most annoying part of modern games, which is like stamina, eating food, and drinking water maintenance crap.
You recommend this game to anyone, Matt?
No.
Me either. I couldn't. What would you pay for it? $5.
Not $175.
I'd pay $5 for it.
Yeah, I mean, if one day it gets to be like you could get like, I mean, it's not gonna be bundled with Shenmue 1 and 2 because that's published by Sega. But if like there's a sale on and you can get like the remaster bundle for like $10 and this for like $10, like yeah. $20. I mean, you're never gonna finish them.
Or if you could get all three games for like $30.
If you were gonna spend any substantial money on this game, I think you already backed it.
Yep.
Basically.
Yeah. I mean, $60 is substantial money, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I went and bought it with my own money, and I regret it.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. Like, this just happens to be one of the publishers we don't get code from, and I had to go buy it like everybody else, and I feel like I flushed $60 down the toilet.
Well, did you get a physical copy?
Yeah, I did.
Let's go trade it in.
Yeah, I guess I could.
You get like $40 or something.
Yeah.
Trade-in money.
Yeah, that's true.
Better than nothing.
So maybe I'm not completely out.
So it's like you rented it.
Yeah, that's a good point. So there you go. That's Shenmue 3. I know it was a long time coming, 18 years.
Yeah.
And it was delayed a couple times. I wonder, like, what caused them to delay it?
I feel like
what did they fix that was worse than what's in the game right now?
I mean, there's a lot of things that happen in game development that like you
Yeah.
know, just literal like people's
Game
eyeballs being
breaks or
inside out.
whatever,
I mean, you know, working with the Unreal Engine 4, something they never worked with before, or, you know, it's a new team. Like anything could have gone wrong. Do you see that thing that somebody posted this week about Madden? He was on the Madden team. And it's a Madden 2003 bug.
No.
And it was this bug where the field and the stadium would display, and the ball would appear in the middle of the field, but there were no players anywhere.
No.
And they're like, we can't figure out where the player. It says the players are there, but we can't figure out
like where
they
go?
are. And one of these like junior coders goes, "Did you look inside the ball?" And everyone's like, "What do you?" And they use the tools to go in, and there everybody is inside the football.
Are you kidding me?
The game was rendering both teams in
Inside
formation
the ball.
inside the football.
Wow.
So you never fucking know.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It could have been anything to cause it to be delayed. It should have been delayed again. Like this game probably shouldn't have come out till like end of next year.
But delaying it wasn't gonna like fix any of the things that really I have a problem. Like unless they were gonna delay it to remove the stamina system. I mean, I guess it could have improved the fighting system. But I don't really see how much better that gets considering what they built here.
Yeah.
Like it feels like a lost cause one way or the other. Whether
just
you wanted those
bloated
systems to be gone or better like I do, or you just wanted it to be a completely different game like you did, like you weren't gonna get either one of those things with another 6 months of development.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. So that's Shenmue 3. We're definitely not going to talk about that one again. I'm not going back and playing any more of this.
I wouldn't be so sure about that.
I jumped on the grenade. Talk about it again? Yeah, because something crazy could happen or Schreier could publish a story about what actually happened behind the scenes.
Yeah, or they could finally announce no Shenmue 4 or yes Shenmue 4.
That's true. Yeah.
It's not over yet.
It may be a while, though.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't think this is one of those we're going to greenlight it after the opening weekend things.
No, definitely not. Not happening. You're not going to see a press release.
There are going to be a lot of meetings first.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about Cyberpunk 2077. I know you're saying, Shane, you guys talk about this game all the time on GameFace. You're right. The reason we talk about it all the time is because you guys freaking love it. It tracks. The traffic for this game on Sifted is like double anything else. It's not even close.
Well, it's like Sessler. Sessler has that data company, and he said, the number one most talked about game on the internet is Fortnite. Fortnite by huge margin.
Sense.
Always, every day, every week, every month. It's Fortnite. Fortnite. When Cyberpunk was at the Xbox conference at E3, Cyberpunk was the most talked about game on the internet 4 times over on top of Fortnite. Only time that's ever happened. And yeah, part of that was Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But Cyberpunk is the only game to beat Fortnite in terms of just like mindshare, internet chatter in a real-time data collection thing. So that is big.
Oh, yeah, it's huge. It's huge. You guys love this game.
Like you thought The Witcher 3 was a hit. This thing's going to burn the charts
It really is. Absolutely. You guys love this game. We love it too. And we want to keep you guys up to date on everything that's happening with it. Its release now is only about 4 or 5 months away.
Yeah. March.
And CD Projekt Red... April. Yeah. And CD Projekt Red is basically like, yo, we're just polishing. Like, there's really no danger of it being delayed. Was it delayed one other... I mean, we never really had a release date for like 9 years or whatever.
There was never a date. This is the first date we've got. I mean, look, it is in the next fiscal year, so it could slip.
Yeah, they could let it slip without any concerns.
Like, you could slip that to June and not really lose a whole lot.
Yeah, you could, you basically have a 3-month window there.
Yeah.
April, May, and June.
Yeah, you probably want to keep it in Q2, but,
Yep. So... it's coming soon, and so information about this game is starting to flood out there on a weekly basis, and we got a couple more tidbits this week that we want to discuss with you guys. One of the things that kind of came out doesn't really impact my impressions of Cyberpunk, but it presents questions about the greater or larger industry, and that is that Cyberpunk 2077 will not be available at the launch of PlayStation 5 and Scarlet.
Well, I don't believe that. So, I mean, unless I feel like you're still going to be able to run that game on, I mean, this third party, so I guess maybe not, but like there's no reason you couldn't still run that on the next systems.
That's what I thought. But
I mean, that's not the same as what maybe they're saying, like it won't be available in the sense that we're not going to sell an actual PS5 Scarlet version of it, like branded for that.
It's very confusing. It's like, what does it mean? Does it mean that they don't want to kind of soil the sales on Gen 8 consoles by saying, yeah, it's going to be coming to this other console like 5 or 6 months later, and it's going to look a lot better.
I mean, that could be that too. But again, I think part of this must tie in with that we don't know how last gen software is being handled on the next gen systems. I think we'll get clarity on this at E3.
So I have had a bit of a debate with someone on Sifted over the last few days about this, and they were saying that when we talk about how it's going to be easy for Gen 8 games to be played on Gen 9 consoles, he disagrees. He says that the APIs are different. It's not just like you're working with a PC, which goes against everything I know about game development and everything I know about hardware.
I mean, there would really be no reason to change them that much. Like, you're still kind of trying to create the same environment for development environment. I mean, obviously, there's going to be differences because of what the hardware can do and the new abilities that these systems have, but it doesn't make sense that there wouldn't at least be some kind of solution that each Sony and Microsoft come up with to make that easy, even if it's not easy from like a raw hardware standpoint. But the architecture is pretty much the same, so it shouldn't be that crazy. And for something that's going to be as big as Cyberpunk, like you're probably looking at, I mean, not obviously on the same level, but you're looking at something that could sell evergreen the way GTA 5 did.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So like to think that there's not going to be some kind of way to play Cyberpunk 2077 on the PS5 and the Scarlet eventually.
Oh, eventually
ridiculous.
For sure. But the question is, like, at launch.
Well, there's no guarantee. I mean, again, there is not necessarily like native backwards compatibility with this stuff, so it might be a thing where you have to actually do like what Xbox One has done. Like we can do it, and you're going to get a lot of it, but we have to make it happen first. You know what I mean? Like you can't just stick any Xbox 360 game in an Xbox One and make it work, and it'll work by default. It has to be one of the supported ones, so it might be something like that. And maybe they just don't feel like they have the bandwidth to turn Cyberpunk 2077 around in that regard for the next-gen systems in time for launch.
Now, does it change it, though, the fact that these are off-the-shelf parts? I mean, the GPU and the CPU that are going to be used in these consoles are just GPUs and CPUs that a consumer could go and buy.
I don't know.
Now, they may be slightly altered so that they fit in the form factor of the console, but the way that they work and their architecture is the same.
I mean, my instinct on this is that it's more of a business decision than a hardware decision.
Yeah.
If this is indeed true, and it's not just deflection because they don't want to spill any beans about the next gen.
I mean, that could be possible, too, is that they have an agreement with Microsoft and Sony where they don't divulge how that forward...
Yeah, like my feeling on all PS5 Scarlet news right now is just like, don't believe anything. Because no one can talk about it. No one wants to be nailed for breaking some kind of NDA. I mean, they all know. Like, all the major developers know all this stuff. You know, but actually, the only person I'd believe is Yves. Like, I believe, like, Ubisoft might just blab stuff.
He does. I mean,
they do that all the time.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I feel like anything they say that sort of like feels like a weird decision is probably more just like we don't want to get involved because we don't want to make Sony and Microsoft mad at us for saying the wrong thing, but we're just going to say no. Like just stonewall it, wait for them to make their own announcements, and then when they make their announcements, you'll know what we're really doing, and that'll be the end of it.
So you don't think that this might be a flag saying what we've assumed about forwards compatibility may be incorrect?
No. I see no reason to, I mean, there's no reason to think one way or the other, really, but like, and it might be different for third parties. We don't know. But again, it also, for Microsoft, they handled this kind of thing pretty much in-house at Xbox One. Like Rockstar didn't do any work on Red Dead Redemption.
Right. Yeah, it's the same code.
Like Microsoft just figured out a way to make it work. On their end. So like that might be part of it. Maybe they don't want to provide the code to Sony and Microsoft that early to make them they don't have enough time to finish it. You know, it hasn't gone gold, day one patch, whatever. And so like between April and November, there's not enough time to make it work reliably for a launch backwards compatibility. That could be as simple as that. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what they're doing. I think it'll be easier to determine once we see, come probably E3, how these systems are handling last gen software.
Yeah, it's a big question. I mean,
like I wouldn't.
It might be the biggest X factor left.
Yeah, like I wouldn't assume. Personally, I do think backwards compatibility is going to be a big deal in both systems. I think you're going to be able to carry most of, if not all, of your existing digital library forward. But I certainly would not necessarily count 100% on being able to play it all at launch. At least not the third-party stuff. Like I bet all Microsoft's and Sony's own stuff, I bet they'll all be there.
Yeah,
but like third-party stuff, I feel like there might be more of a trickle to that. So that would be my guess, especially with the Xbox, considering how the Xbox One has handled it, which I think has been pretty good. Just it took a while.
Yeah. Yep. And then the other kind of new update on Cyberpunk is multiplayer monetization. Things were flying around this week that Cyberpunk is going to have microtransactions in its multiplayer. CD Projekt Red responded to those reports and said, we don't know yet. Do you think that has any... Keep in mind, by the way, that multiplayer will not be there at the game's launch. It's coming later. Everyone's going to be playing the single-player stuff first, and then...
I wonder if maybe who knows how much later that means. Maybe that's what PS5 and Scarlet... That's when they get their versions, is when it's a complete package.
When they have the multiplayer ready. Monetization, microtransactions, do you think that has any negative effect on the game?
I mean, I think it will have negative effect on like word of mouth about it in terms of the chatter around it, but it's so overwhelmingly a first-person game, a single-player game. I mean, also a first-person game, but so overwhelmingly a single-player game, and that's the appeal of it that I don't see it really. Can't see anybody not buying it because there's microtransactions in the multiplayer. I mean, I don't even know if I'll even play the multiplayer.
Yeah, I think most people who buy Cyberpunk will probably never even touch the multiplayer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see the point.
I mean, the other thing, too, is that CD Projekt Red has never made multiplayer anything. It's never had a multiplayer.
I mean, they made Gwent. That's not really the same thing.
Yeah, it's way, way different. When you're talking about an action game and latency where it matters and things like that. So... yeah, I wouldn't put too much hope in the multiplayer mode, but, I mean, who cares?
I mean, the multiplayer mode is just absolute gravy. Like, it's just
I just wonder why they even really need to do it,
I don't think they do, but who knows? Maybe when we play it, it will make more sense. Maybe we'll be like, oh, yeah, I would like to shoot at children.
Well, it would be fun to play a shooter.
Screaming racial epithets at me.
That would be cool, though, to play a competitive shooter where you have access to all the stuff that's in this game.
Sure.
It could have its own kind of appeal to it.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it seems like they're taking the right approach. They're like, you know what? We're not even going to worry about that until we finish the campaign.
Yeah, as long as you're not making me wait longer for the single-player campaign in the name of working on multiplayer, you can make multiplayer all day for
Yeah. Although I would argue that I'd rather that team just get started on the sequel or whatever else they're going to do next instead of working on a multiplayer game.
I mean, that's a valid point.
Let's be honest. Yeah. It'll probably take them a good 6 to 8 months to get
remake
multiplayer.
Witcher 1.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of.
That's my thing. Is I think they have separate two teams at least now. They're a big company now.
Yeah, they're big now.
If I were them, I would, God forbid. I mean, I don't think they're going to take advice from this podcast of all podcasts. But if I were them, I would. Want to remake Witcher 1, which they were doing. They were remaking Witcher 1 for 360 at one point. They put that.
Well, they kind of did it when they made it for Switch, because that definitely wasn't just a straight port.
Witcher 1 is a very different thing. Basically, you need to remake Witcher 1 because you need to make it playable in a modern sense. You want to talk about Shenmue III syndrome. But just remake it in the Witcher 3 engine, like they were doing. I think it was called Legend of the White Wolf or something like that. Remake that, and then Witcher 2 is good enough. Witcher 3 is great. That means you can package that trilogy together for the entire generation as the Witcher trilogy. You can probably carry it forward to the gen after that if you want to, because all that stuff's scalable, and be great. Like you can sell the the Geralt trilogy for years and years and years, and it would be even better for console owners because they haven't played Witcher 1 at all. And for PC people, I mean, I certainly would buy a better version of Witcher 1 on PC because I really like that game, but it's very hard to play now because it's basically a kludged together version of the Neverwinter Nights 1 engine.
I would argue give that to the B team.
Yeah.
Your new team or whatever. I mean, CD Projekt.
Yeah, A team should probably be. I mean, I think there's 2 A teams, frankly. I think
probably.
There's a Cyberpunk team and there's a team working on whatever the next Witcher thing is. The non-Geralt sequel, whatever you're going to do. I feel like they might go and do what their original concept for The Witcher 1 was, which was you didn't play as Geralt, you played as a self-created Witcher, and sort of eventually they switched it to play as Geralt. But I could definitely see you playing in sort of a post-Witcher 3 world as a Witcher, a new Witcher, and sort of navigating that culture somehow, and like kind of even leaning harder into the sort of daily life of a Witcher thing and less into the kind of high fantasy Geralt keeps ending up working for kings thing.
I'll say one thing. Cyberpunk 2077 had a much better chance of winning Game of the Year this year than it will next year.
Yeah. Also, I will say this. if the Netflix Witcher show is A, good, and B, a big hit, I think we'll definitely see The Witcher 1 remade.
Yeah.
Because The Witcher 1 covers
a lot of people
similar
haven't
material.
played it. Yeah.
I think you want more Witcher out there if the Netflix show is a hit. Even though the
It's
Netflix
gonna
show is
be,
not
I
related.
think.
I mean, it's not related to the game. It's straight from the books. But I think I think and I know CD Projekt Red is not stupid. They know that if that's a big hit, and it looks like it will be, you got to strike while that iron's hot. It wouldn't surprise me if we saw some Witcher announcements next year.
Interesting. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about Crash Bandicoot. You know how much Matt and I love Crash Bandicoot.
I'll be back.
Apparently, we're in the minority on this, Matt. Everybody loves
Clearly.
Crash because now
Everybody loves a character whose entire torso is his mouth.
Yeah, because now rumors are swirling that next year we are going to get a brand new Crash Bandicoot
I don't
game.
know about we.
Well, they
Okay.
are going to get a new Crash Bandicoot game. As you guys know, Crash Bandicoot and Sane Trilogy, which is what you're seeing right now, sold like crazy. It's not a surprise that they're exploring further projects in this universe because when you spend, $20 or $30 million on a remaster and it sells like it did for Activision, you're going to want to try to figure out how you can squeeze some more money out of that.
Yeah,
But
Activision remembered what it was like to put games out that aren't just Call of Duty.
right. Yeah, no, you're right. Like, they're actually like, oh, we have a hit?
All right.
What do we do with those again?
There are other games.
Matt, do you think
Do the shareholders know this? That there are other games?
Now, Matt, we're both on the record as not being Crash Bandicoot fans.
No.
The remake that they made for the first 3 games did not change my opinion on the fact that I think Crash's games are trash. What can they do anything with a new Crash game that would make you give it a chance?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I mean, but that I'm not saying they shouldn't make it. Like, not every game has to be for me.
Right,
Like,
right.
go ahead. Like, it sells well. People like it. People want to play it. They'll buy it. Do it. Go ahead and do it. Like, bring back the mascot platformer. Great. Cool. I mean, maybe others than that I'd actually want to play. Like Spyro. I'd play a new Spyro. Although new Spyros haven't gone tremendously well in the past. But I don't know. Sure. Great. Like, I'm never going to play it. But that's no reason not to do it.
Do you think that it has any chances at being as successful as the Insane Trilogy?
I mean, probably not, but I think it has plenty chance to be successful enough. Like, I mean, the Insane Trilogy sold largely on the back of tremendous nostalgia, perfectly timed.
Sure.
But that doesn't, like, it's like you don't not make more Star Wars movies just because the ones after Force Awakens aren't going to make $2 billion again.
Yeah.
Like, you're just going to have to be happy with $1 billion.
Right. It's a hard knock life. What do you think that they should do with the game? You think it should be this forced perspective experience like it's been?
Yeah, they should probably just do another Crash Bandicoot.
Really?
Yeah.
Keep it just like static camera
I hesitate to say if it ain't broke, don't fix it, because I think it's very broke, but evidently not, judging by the sales.
But do you think it had been a long time since a Crash, well, not that long, but probably almost 10 years since a new Crash had been released. Do you think it was just, like you said, just nostalgia where people were like, oh, I loved Crash when I was a kid, and then they got it and they played it, and maybe a little bit like Shenmue just happened for us, they're like, oh, you know what? These games really aren't that good.
I mean, that's possible, but it's like it's the tightrope walk of the Sonic thing. Like, do you make a new Sonic game? When you make a new Sonic game, do you make another Sonic game, like an old Genesis style game, or do you make a 3D game? Do you try to make a modern Sonic game? What is to some people a modern Sonic game is something like Sonic 4. It's a side-scrolling game that just looks way better than the Genesis games ever could have looked. Some people, a modern Sonic game is supposed to be a 3D adventure game. So you have to decide, what is a modern Crash game? Is a modern Crash game just an old Crash game with like the visual bells and whistles and physics that you can do now? Or is a modern Crash game a complete reinvention of the formula? And you have to decide which one of those things is going to be the most profitable, the most appealing. I would think, to Activision sensibilities, not reinventing the wheel is more along the lines of what they tend to do.
I think that's also probably the smart thing to do.
Probably,
I mean, look,
yeah.
there's very little proof that 3D platformers are raking in the sales these days. I mean,
Yeah, it's not like there's competition where it's like, I don't need that. I have this, this, and this. Like, there is no this, this, and this. It's just this.
I mean, they're the only 3D platformers that really sell well anymore are the Mario games.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much it. It's kind of cornered the market at this point. There's been a few indies, Yooka-Laylee. None of them have set the world on fire.
No.
There's not a lot of...
except this one.
Yeah, there's not a lot of frothing demand for 3D platformers. I mean, this is built polygonally, but it's technically a 2D platformer.
Yeah.
Because you're not controlling the camera, you're not...
Yeah, despite Jason Rubin's claim back in the day that this was more 3D than Mario 64 could ever hope to be.
Yeah.
Which I believe was a reference to the fact that the trees in Crash Bandicoot were polygonal and the trees in Mario 64 were sprites.
Yeah.
Which
would rotate.
Really not the reason Mario 64 was better than Crash Bandicoot, but
it has nothing to do with it. Especially, particularly has nothing to do with whether one is more 3D than the other.
No, that was a very strange time.
But it was real. Like, the fight between Mario and Crash was a real thing that like people bought into and cared about, and there were
Sega
commercials.
People were like, also Knights. It's like, no, not also Knights.
No, that doesn't count. So I agree with you. I think they should probably stick with the known Crash template. I think particularly after you see how the remake trilogy sold, you'd be kind of foolish to kind of change the formula, because what you realize when you sell that many copies of it is there's still a big audience for these types of games. So I'd agree with you. I think keeping it on a predetermined path, kind of a 2D platformer with a 3D look, is probably the right way to go.
Yeah, and meanwhile, just let me know when another Ratchet and Clank shows up.
Yeah. Although I wonder if that's going to be a long time, too, because the one for PS4 did not sell great.
True.
And it does take a lot of work.
And that was also in conjunction with the movie, which didn't do well.
Which also did horribly, yeah.
I don't think Insomniac will let Ratchet go away forever.
I don't either.
Although Ratchet is not really a platformer. So, I mean, this platform
more like an action
it's more like an
adventure.
Action shooter. Like, there's a lot more gunplay in that.
As time went on, in particular, it became more of a shooter.
It started as more of a kind of a platformer, but like even by going commando, it was
it's
the
all
shooting
about
was
the
way
gadgets
more.
and the weapons,
It was a shooter exploring kind of game.
But you know what? Like, Insomniac managed to find a niche inside the 3D platformer genre where it stays relevant and people care. But when you're just creating clone after clone of Super Mario 64, it doesn't seem to really work out anymore.
Yeah, and I admit I kind of miss the era where you had sort of the three Sony mascot platformers. You had
Spyro, Crash, and Sly.
Well, I was more thinking Sly, Ratchet, and
so there's more than three.
Well, like Spyro and Crash were kind of over by the time the era I'm thinking of.
Okay.
It was the PS2 era with Ratchet, Jak and Daxter, and Sly. Although my favorite of those was always probably Sly, but I'm a sucker Punch Mark. So
yeah, my least favorite was probably Jak and Daxter.
Yeah, I mean Jak and Daxter is Jak and Daxter. The first one was also the most Banjo-Kazooie-ish.
It was it was a platformer,
very apey,
and then it also became
became edgy and dark.
And they had like a kart racing game.
It was like a vehicle combat, and like it was like a post-apocalyptic thing. And
so someone says in chat,
patch.
Ratchet and Clank 2016 is the best-selling game in the series. I'd like to see some proof on that.
I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, I've never heard that either. I mean, I find it hard to believe that it sold better.
Good.
It was good. I find it hard to believe, though, that it sold better than the PS2 games, where the install base was even bigger than it is for PlayStation 4, and the franchise was a lot more relevant then. I'd be surprised if that were the case, but maybe it is. It could be. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about the PlayStation 5. More information's been trickling out about that this week as well. It's the week of the trickle. Just in time for Thanksgiving.
Yeesh.
Yep. So, yet another rumor. And I'll say this. Games Radar, the website, has no shame. It will report anything like it comes across. So, a lot of the rumors that we get, they are almost always published by Games Radar. And then when we see their stories, we have to go back and start doing research and trying to figure out like if the stories are legit or not based on the sources that they cite. And this week, Games Radar announced or published a story saying that the PlayStation 5 is coming in November 2020, which not a big surprise. I think we all kind of assumed that.
Just
for $500.
Tripping back to the Ratchet thing, because I looked it up for a second. Insomniac said that it's their most successful title of all time, the 2016 Ratchet and Clank game. Obviously, that predates Spider-Man.
That seems insane.
That's what they said. They said that last year, before Spider-Man came out, but they said it's Insomniac's most successful title of all time, confirms the developer.
That's so bizarre, because if you go back and remember NPD, it wasn't even like a blip on the radar back when it came out.
Well, the best-selling game of that one year was Wildlands, and we didn't even know it.
That's true.
I mean, you never know. If it hits outside of the core gamer demographic, we might not even see it happen.
Yeah, I mean, you'd still get NPD reports and sales reports, so.
Sometimes. NPD is not very accurate anymore when you not have digital sales anymore.
It's true.
I mean, especially if you're buying, cheap games for your kids, digital is probably the way to go.
I just think when that game came out, nobody cared. Nobody talked about it. When the first Ratchets came out on PS2, they were one of the biggest franchises in the industry.
Well, unless Insomniac's lying, I don't think they would be.
I think they have reason to maybe fudge those numbers a little bit.
I feel like you're going to need better proof than to accuse Ted Price of lying about his sales than that.
Yeah, I have no proof. I'm just saying that you asked why they would, and I said they would have reason to, because it's one of their biggest IPs, and if it tanked, then it loses some cachet. So there's reason why it would fudge the numbers. I'm not saying that they did.
But why would they say it's their biggest ever?
Because I'm wondering if
instead of just saying, no, it sold fine.
Well, context matters. I didn't read the article. Did somebody ask them, hey, did Ratchet not sell very well?
No,
it seems like
they just announced it.
Oh, they just put out a press release.
They put out basically a press release in last summer.
3 years after the game came out?
No, it was 2 years after.
2016. That's weird.
Maybe that's when it became the best seller. Because I'm sure some of those sales were when the price dropped.
Huh. Interesting.
Because it did drop to $20.
I know it may sound crazy because you're quoting Insomniac, but I have a really hard time believing that's true. Do you believe it?
Yeah.
Really?
Why would they lie about that? It's so easy to disprove.
I don't know.
If you have go ask Pactor next time you shoot with him.
He can show me the NPDs.
He has the NPD stuff.
Yeah, he can show it to me. I'll ask him.
I mean, it's not their biggest anymore because Spider-Man outsold it.
I'll tell you why I don't believe it. It's because if a game ever sells that well, it's a story. People know.
There was a story.
2 years after it came out.
Well, because it took that long to sell that much.
Oh. I don't know. This sounds fishy to me. But anyway,
I don't know why that's nothing suspect about any of that. What are you talking about?
Because there's no empirical data to support it.
So Insomniac's just lying about their sales for no reason, unprompted.
I already said I think there is a reason why they would fudge numbers for it.
That doesn't sound like that company. I mean,
I agree with you there. Like Insomniac, I do trust Ted. I do trust that company.
If you think they needed to cover their ass for bad sales of that game, all they needed to say was it sold fine. They don't need to say it sold better than anything else we've ever made.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it doesn't make sense to say that, because then you automatically get somebody's like, oh, I want to check that out, because wow, biggest ever. That's crazy.
I don't know. I'm curious. I'm going to the website now because I am really curious about this. Let's see.
Look at all the Ratchets.
Yep, there's so many. Let's go finance. Second week on the top. So it was top on the UK charts for 2 weeks. There's the Ratchet and Clank movie tanking. Oh, yeah,
fastest selling in franchise history.
Yeah.
I mean, the game did well. It seems like the game did way better than the movie.
Yeah, for sure.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
I don't wonder why because it's good, but it's like...
By the way, I just want to say, you cannot go to any website and do this except for Sifted. Try it. Try to go and try to find the sales numbers for a game on any other gaming website. Pick a game and try to find it. Only on Sifted. One of the million things our site does that no other site does. Use it. So yeah, it looks like you're right. It looks like it at least sold better than I thought, at the very least.
I mean, it didn't make a lot of noise at the time.
It's the quietest, best-selling game for a studio I've ever seen. I'll say that.
Well, except Wildlands.
No, I mean, we knew about that.
We knew about that months later.
It ruled NPD for like 4 months straight. We knew it was selling.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is
couldn't figure out why.
Nobody talked about it in the game industry.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about it. It was not a subject because none of us were fucking playing it.
It's weird.
Sometimes that stuff happens outside of our sphere, and I think that's what happened with Ratchet there.
It could be. Or maybe they ended up discounting it and it's
I think they discounted it to 20. I think by the end of that year. So I would say a lot of those sales that put it, not just make it a stronger seller, but put it over the top of all other Insomniac titles. I'm sure part of that was it sold at a really impulse buy price for a long time.
The other thing too is that there aren't a lot of good games for kids on PlayStation.
That's true.
And parents could have really kind of flocked to that game to be like, this is a game
that might also be part of why that Crash collection sold so well.
True. That's a good point. All right. Let's get back to PlayStation 5. So the latest report says November 2020 for $500. How does that hit you?
Sounds about right.
Do you think it's going to be $500?
I've been saying it's going to be $500 for like a year.
Yeah. I mean, look
I
at
don't
the
think
tech
you can
in it.
I mean, look, you could go over $500 if you're Microsoft, but I do not. Look, I don't think Sony will ever sell anything for $599 again.
Yeah, just the stigma.
Certainly not U.S. dollars.
Well, you can see the lower third there.
So it could be $550, it could be $650, but it is never going to be $600 again. I promise you that.
Well, it could be $600. It just wouldn't be $599.
Yeah, they would. Yeah, for the first time ever, they'd just be like, "No, it's $600."
Or they make it like 601 or something. Yeah,
it'd be like some Price is Right bidding shit.
Do you think? Do you think at $500 it's going to be okay?
Yeah, I mean, you don't make money on the razor; you make money on the razor blades.
Right. So, I mean, it did very well with it putting its console at $400.
Yes.
And now it's going up $100. It's going up to the price where Microsoft failed.
Mm-hmm. But Microsoft in part failed because they were selling something that wasn't worth $500.
Yeah, and because of the Kinect.
Because of Kinect.
Yeah.
And even if you take the Kinect away and make it the same price as a PS4, you were still getting more with the PS4.
Oh yeah, you're getting better hardware without a doubt.
So it sounds like they already said we are on par price-wise and hardware-wise with the competition. So I think you're going to be looking at two pretty even matches for the same price, and you're just going to have to choose which one has the better lineup, which is Sony. I mean, look, I'm going to get both. I know I'm going to get both.
Yeah, of course.
But if you can only pick one, I would have a hard time not wanting to play Last of Us 2 in that kind of fidelity and Spider-Man 2 inevitably and
God of War
2.
I mean, it's on and on and on.
Probably Death Stranding 2. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you're kind of guaranteed to see in the future on PlayStation that you're not going to have on Xbox.
Ratchet and Clank.
All
Insomniac stuff.
Yep.
I don't think we'll see Resistance revived, but
I would buy a Resistance remaster collection, though.
Really?
I would kind of like to play some of those again.
I never really liked those.
I didn't either, but I
still
would like to revisit them for some. I always appreciated what they were trying to do with them, and I thought Resistance.
They talked a big game when they would talk.
I thought Resistance 2 was actually the best one.
I can't even remember, to be honest with you.
They are. I mean, I remember.
I mean, that sounds right.
I remember them mostly from color palettes. The first one's mostly gray and brown. The second one had a lot more color in it.
That's true.
And then the third one was ambitious but weird.
Yeah, it didn't seem to fit really.
No,
the
it didn't. It was. I don't know why either. It was odd. But I appreciate those games. If Killzone can get a collection, Resistance should get a collection.
I'd agree with that for sure. Do you think that November is the right month to launch?
Maybe. I mean, early November.
It's obvious because you're like, it's Black Friday is in November. It's
October,
shopping
November,
happens.
Right? But unless you're Nintendo, then it's March.
Is it smart to do it in the same month as like Black Friday? And
it's never hurt before.
Yeah.
Don't do it in December, but I think October, November is where you. I mean, as long as it's early November.
Yeah.
I would say like November 9th or something like that. Whatever. I don't know what days or what days.
Because you don't want to be around Black Friday.
No, you want to give it time to get in there. Because you need the launch, and the launch is probably going to sell out to the hardcore, and then you got to give it time to ship more units in for Black Friday for the Christmas buyers. So you want to get like the first week of. You want to launch the first week of November. So you have like 2 weeks or 3 weeks to
sell all the initial stock and then get more in for Black Friday. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think October, honestly, is probably the better idea.
Yeah, but it makes this, maybe Xbox already has October.
Yeah,
I bet they know.
They probably do know when each one of them are launching.
Coming.
They probably heard from developers,
developers or manufacturers.
Yeah,
like you can piece those together if you know who's got what. They're doing this. So I would say like. Wouldn't surprise me if you saw like maybe PlayStation 5 first week of November and like the Xbox the second to last week of October.
Well, how do you think what would happen if they launched them both on the same day?
mass hysteria.
It would be
dogs
insane.
and cats sleeping together.
Think about that. We've never have we ever had that before? Where two consoles launched on the same exact day?
I want to say the PS3 and the Wii launched real close to like week after week.
Yeah.
I don't think the same day, but I want to say they were literally
close.
2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
But
that sounds right.
I think
but never
so.
on the same day.
I don't remember because I didn't buy a PlayStation 3 the day it came out because I decided to wait because I didn't care.
Yeah.
And I actually had to review a bunch of launch PlayStation 3 games, and I was like, this is all garbage, and I'm not paying $599 US. But then early December, I think you were gone by then. You were already at game trailers. But early December, like first week of December, Morgan got a call or someone called her and said the Best Buy on Pico down the street from the office got the PlayStation 3s in. And I'm like, fine. So we went over and I got a 60 gig fat, and which obviously wasn't called that then because it was the only one you could get.
It was the only one.
But I wanted the 60 gig one, and so I got that, and it's still my PS3.
Yeah,
lasted the
mine
whole
too.
time.
Yeah, I still have
the native backwards compatibility. So in the end, because of the native backwards compatibility, I was very happy I did that. But at the time, it was like this grudging sort of like, fine, I kind of want to play Resistance. You know, I had to review the Gundam game. That was terrible. But
yeah, I couldn't imagine what would happen if Microsoft and Sony launched on the same. I would like to see it just to see what happens.
Like, I don't even know if stores could handle it.
I don't know if they could. And if you do that in November, in the midst of the biggest shopping season and everything, it could just be insane.
I mean, I think it's probably just going to hurt everyone involved if you did that. So.
Probably, yeah.
God, just imagine
it would hurt the retailers.
Just imagine the distribution
consumers.
centers.
Oh, God.
You know, like it was just
it would be
you
nuts.
got to space it out.
It's almost like Microsoft and Sony need to work together on this.
It's all a scam.
It's all a setup. They're all just setting
They're all
it up.
in on it.
They're just going to make sure everybody does well.
But I mean,
I'm fine with.
In a corporate business situation like that, where doubling up on yourselves is just going to hurt you and the other guy and the retail outlets and the distributor. I mean,
the consumers
and the
probably.
factories. Like, you probably got to stagger some of the production of these chips. Like, I'm sure that like there's some level of like, okay, we won't step on each other.
How do you decide who gets to go first, though?
I don't know if you want. I mean, is going first better? Like, I don't know. Like, maybe Sony is more confident. But, like, people will wait for our system because we're us.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sony definitely has the cachet and the leeway to come out second. Yeah, I think it would be doom for Microsoft probably. Yeah. I don't know. Because they're just in different positions. Sony's coming from a position of strength. Microsoft is coming from a position of weakness right now.
Maybe they just Rochambeau each other for it.
It's possible. You think price will be the same? You look at Xbox Two or Scarlet to both be $500?
Yeah, I think they'll both be. I don't know. I mean, I think they'll both be the same price, whatever it is. My guess would be $500. My guess would be $500.
How do you think consumers will react to a $500 consoles? They're going to sell at the launch allotment no matter what.
Yeah. I think it'll be fine.
Yeah.
I mean,
because one thing we've seen with this generation is the prices don't really come down on consoles anymore.
Well, I don't think the problem with the Xbox One was the price so much as you looked at that thing and it felt like they were forcing you to buy this extra thing you didn't want, this Kinect thing. And I think if you just say, here's a $500 game system and it's going to give you $500 worth of game system, great. Cool. Like, I'm okay with that. If it looks to me when I'm as a consumer, maybe a less informed consumer, if I'm looking at this thing and it looks to me like every dollar of what I'm paying is in that game console box and not on this extra camera thing that's sitting on top of it.
You may not ever even install.
Want to hook up, but yeah. I feel like that I'm going to not react as badly to that as I would to the Xbox One. Certainly, I mean, the Xbox One was a problem for that for me when it launched too. I mean, I really wished I could buy it without the Kinect. And to this day, that Kinect is sitting in a drawer somewhere, and I don't even know where it is.
I kept mine hooked up forever, and it still sits on. It's not plugged in anymore, but it still sits on top of my Xbox One.
I mean, I am not a keep a live microphone in my house person. No. Like, I don't have any Google Home stuff. I don't have Alexa. I don't have Siri turned on. I have to hold the button to turn Siri on. I don't have any stuff like I've gotten Google Home stuff as free, and like I bought like a washer dryer and they gave me a free Google Home. I gave it to one of my friends who doesn't mind Google listening to all his arguments with his wife. So I'm not into that. So like if you like the Kinect was just part of that to me. It was just like, I don't need you listening to me all the time. I can just hit the button on the controller to turn the system on. Thank you very much. I think it was a cooler thing if you ran your cable TV through the system, because it let you play around with it a lot more. except for that time when the voice activation paused a Broncos game in the middle of one of the key plays, and I thought my friend Lawrence was going to have a heart attack.
Yeah. I mean, my Xbox, if I have my Kinect plugged in, it will still turn on randomly.
Yeah. Well, I remember that because he bought it and hooked it up, and that was that first weekend. And eventually we realized we had to establish a rule that you couldn't say Xbox.
Yeah.
Because we wanted
you don't even have to.
We wanted to talk about the system, but every time someone would say Xbox, it would start doing shit. So we'd have to okay, just call it something else. Call it Bob.
It'll just pick up on random words from TV shows and just turn on.
Yeah.
Like all the time. It happens to me.
It's not a perfect system.
Do you think Microsoft can get away with charging the same for its console as Sony?
I mean, if the rumors about what their hardware is true, no problem. I mean, obviously the difference is the lineup.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to be pushing on us for that.
Halo.
I mean, they got Halo. Halo's a pretty good ask for $500.
Yeah.
If you're really smart, you'd put it in the system.
Pack it in. That would be the way they can get around.
You know what you do? You pack in the Master Chief Collection.
Or
because that'll be done by then. They're going to complete it with Halo Reach. Like a year later, give it away with the new system. What a great thing.
Or you pack it in with something that maybe Sony can't really compete with, which is like 3 months of Game Pass.
Yeah.
I mean, PlayStation Now is kind of turning into
not
Game
on this,
Pass, but it's not there yet.
And also, Game Pass is going to offer you like the launch games.
Right.
Like they're going to have day and date with the new stuff and Sony stuff.
So think about that.
Yeah. It comes with like 3 months of Game Pass. That's great.
You play all the launch. There's 5 launch games, first party launch games.
Yeah.
You get them all.
Yeah, that is some leverage right there.
That's some real leverage. And it's going to be hard to find that, I think, between these two as the next 10 months approach. So it'll be interesting to see what both
So that makes it doubly interesting because like Sony's going to have a launch lineup that really, really makes you say, I have to play that.
Yeah, because they're
not just I have, because even if you have both systems having things where you're like, oh, I have to play that, Microsoft's going to have like, I have to play that, but I'm going to play it through Game Pass, whereas Sony's like, I have to play that, and I will pay $60 on top of this $500 game system to play it.
Yeah. And then you start thinking about Game Pass. It's not just even the first-party launch games. It's all the other stuff that's on Game Pass.
Yeah.
So you give them 3 months free. They have the best launch for a console like ever. That 3 months is up. They're probably going to be sold on Game Pass.
And you're probably looking at more robust backwards compatibility support just because that's how Xbox has been rolling for several years now.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a Game Pass subscription packed in with that thing, you are really looking at a solid instant game library right there.
Microsoft has an opportunity to turn the tables.
Yeah.
We'll see if it...
I couldn't choose Microsoft over Sony in the long run just because I desperately need to play Spider-Man 2 whenever that comes out. But I could see waiting until that is there.
Yep. And we'll see what's there at launch. I mean,
look, Ghost of Tsushima is going to get me to buy that system one way or the other because clearly it looks to me like they are doing that thing I thought they might do and making Ghost of Tsushima a PS5 launch title, even if it does also play on PS4.
Yeah.
But that game, I am so excited about that game, not just because of the subject matter, because I do like, feudal Japan samurai stuff, but because it's Sucker Punch and I love Sucker Punch.
Yeah.
Like, you got me. Like, if you're going to launch with a Sucker Punch game, you got me.
Yep. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about the biggest game announcement of the week. Undoubtedly would have been our trailer of the week, but we're going to talk about it, so it's not. And that game is Half-Life Alyx, coming to all PC HMDs, not just Valve Index. And Valve is also saying that it will run basically on the same GPUs that were required for the first wave of VR. So if you build a rig for the first Oculus or the first Vive, your GPU should be good enough.
Okay.
You should be all right.
Just imagine this, but with like a screen door in front of it.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. So it'll be playable on any PC-based HMD, and that includes like the new Rift stuff, like Quest and Rift S.
Which is smart. I mean, it goes into what we've talked about in the past of like, it's not time to try and force people to buy your headset. You just want people to buy a headset.
Right.
Like you got to get the medium out there before you start worrying about who gets what market share.
Now, to be clear, if you buy a Valve Index, you do get it for free. And not only that, if you just buy...
But the Valve Index is enough as it is.
Yeah.
So.
Well, actually, if you only buy the Knuckles controllers, you'll also get it for free. So you don't have to buy...
That's pretty good. I mean,
if you just want to like upgrade the controllers for your Vive with the Knuckles or whatever...
Yeah. That doesn't super surprise me, just because when they're clear. She's got her own Knuckles controller in the game.
Yeah, it's true, actually.
I mean, it's clearly meant to kind of be a demo of what Knuckles can do.
Yeah, for sure. And so the other big question was, well, is this game going to be playable in 2D eventually? Because it makes a lot of sense to just let people just play it as a normal shooter if they want to. And Valve said in an interview with PC Gamer that no, it has thought about it for the last year, and that it just thinks that what makes the game what it is cannot be replicated with a regular controller. So,
which I called last. I don't think you do that. Like you go ahead and make it a showcase for VR. It's not going to translate properly. Just like there's never going to be a controller version of. Maybe there is a controller version of that. Never mind.
What, Beat Saber?
I was going to say. I was going to say that Star Trek game.
Oh.
But they did eventually let you play it.
They did, yeah.
Separate, just because the multiplayer servers were a ghost town.
Yeah. Be interesting to go back and look at some of that stuff now and see if you can even get a game.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably eventually. I bet people will be able to kludge together a way to play this with a controller, like a normal controller.
Oh, though someone will hack it and figure it out, because it is going to be moddable, by the way.
Yeah.
It's going to have that ability. So, yeah, somebody will make it so you can play it in 2D. But as of right now, Valve has no intentions to do that officially. You can play it 3 different ways. You can play it room scale, you can play it standing, or you can play it sitting. There are 3 different movement options. There is the teleport. There's just normal walking in 3D. And then there's one other way to play that I'm not familiar with. I can't remember what they called it. It's like a cross between walking and teleporting. I don't know. It seemed like a new kind of way to play VR games, but you have 3 different ways to play, which is a big deal. Valve is saying it is its biggest project ever. You believe that?
Well, I mean, in terms of manpower, I could see it.
Yeah, I guess because it hasn't really made a modern game.
Yeah.
So it really hasn't had to make a game where you'd need the 250, 300 person team to finish.
And I'm sure there's a ton of R&D in this. I mean, they're trying to make this VR's killer app in a similar way as, obviously they were already a thing by the time Half-Life 1 came out, but Half-Life 1 was a reason a lot of people I knew bought a state-of-the-art
Voodoo 2
graphics card for that. Yeah,
that's why I bought a Voodoo 2. And I was very happy to see that it worked on everything. It made everything look a lot better. But that's why I got one. I definitely upgraded my GPU for that. So they're saying it's his biggest project ever. They're saying 1/3 of the people who are developing Half-Life Alyx worked on either Half-Life 1 or Half-Life 2. That's pretty good. When you figure how many years it's been since the last Half-Life, that you still 1/3 of the team.
What have you been doing since then?
Working on Steam, I guess. Man. I don't know. Working on Dota 2. I don't know. I don't know what they've been doing. So, yeah, biggest project ever for Valve. That's quite a statement. The story is set between the events of Half-Life and Half-Life 2. It sees Alyx and her father, Eli, secretly mounting a resistance to the brutal occupation of Earth by the Combine.
Spoiler, they fail.
Well, that's kind of the thing, isn't it? When you know what's going to happen afterwards.
It's the same problem the Jedi Fallen Order had, where
you just
know they aren't going to succeed.
You know what the end result is, yeah.
Or else Luke Skywalker is just a farmer for the rest of his life, so with nothing to do.
Yeah, the hope is that the excitement is how you get there, right? Yeah, I know. It does squash a little bit of the excitement for something, knowing.
I mean, you're leaning entirely on the gameplay at that point, which I mean looks adequately involved with how modern VR stuff, you can see like, oh, you're going to grab the thing and load the gun and, it's all going to track your fingers. I mean, the finger tracking stuff is fun. Like I've played the Void Avengers thing where like you just put the helmet on and there's nothing on your hands and you move your hands and it reads everything just fine. And that's just like an Oculus Quest.
Yep.
So like, yeah, that stuff's pretty much there. You use the finger controllers, I'm sure it's super accurate. It'd be great.
Well, honestly, a lot of the stuff that's in this trailer is stuff that's been in that game Boneworks for like 2 years now. And that's why I keep telling you, like, this game's still a ways away. Boneworks comes out on December 10th, I think.
Well, this isn't too far. It's like March.
Yeah, it's not that far away. But it's a few months away.
That's the one nice thing about this is they are not showing something that's some kind of like R&D, like one day we'll get to see this. It's like this game's like a quarter and a half away.
They're actually showing the game, too.
Yeah.
It's not a CG. The game looks amazing, by the way. We just completely glossed over that.
Yeah,
like, holy crap. Like, how about here where he searches the shelf and finds a single shotgun shell and then puts it in the gun?
It ain't going to look like that on my headset.
No, it won't.
But
But it looks damn good, man. It's good to just see this universe at such a fidelity level. I mean, it lived up to expectations for me, what I've seen of it so far. I'll say that.
I mean, I still don't care, just because make Half-Life 2 Episode 3 or make Half-Life 3 or go away.
So that's my question.
Care.
Why do you think that they did this kind of in-between story instead of just doing Episode 3?
I think because
after people begged for it
they did say there's more coming, like the Half-Life's back, basically.
Yeah, they said that they're going to keep supporting the franchise.
My guess would be, like, they wanted something they could fuck up on.
Okay.
You know, like if you make Episode 3 or Half-Life 3 and it's in VR and it doesn't work right, it's bad somehow, or like people don't accept it well, yikes.
Yeah.
Like you've basically ruined
the franchise. Yeah.
Whereas if you screw up like a midquel like this,
like a little spin-off,
like it's just a side game.
I've never heard that term, midquel.
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
It's just a side game. It's just a side thing. Midquel, I mean, I don't know when that got coined. I think I've referred to the Star Wars, like Rogue One and Solo, are midquels.
Okay. I've never heard that before.
Between the prequels and the trilogies.
Yeah. So are you saying that there's a chance that we might see Episode 3? Do you think we see Episode 3 or Half-Life 3?
Look, man, if they make more Half-Life after this and it's not Episode 3 and or Half-Life 3, what the fuck?
Yeah. No, but which
How
do you
long
think it
can
will
you
be?
stall?
Which do you think it will be? Do you think they would just do another small episode, or do you think they would just go for
I
would think
they would just pick up where Episode 2 left off and call it Half-Life 3.
That's what I figured too. Yeah. So as you know, in Half-Life 2...
And then what are we going to complain about not coming out?
There won't be anything
left. If Half-Life 3 comes out, what do we do?
There's nothing left. That's good. That's the way it should be.
There's no impossible games left at that point.
Yep.
Except maybe a Darksiders that actually follows up on that goddamn ending.
Right.
But I think that's coming too. I think that'll be the next Darksiders game.
Yeah, I would not be surprised. They're giving us what we want. We ask for it, they generally give it to us. I mean, I know Reggie was all pissed off because he said he felt like Nintendo listened to its fans, and then the fans would screw him and not buy the games. But it sounds like it hasn't deterred everybody else.
You were really overestimating how many people wanted Wii Music, dude. Here's a TV that looks like an apple.
So, as you guys probably remember, the big innovation, I mean, some people may be so young they don't know this, but the big innovation in Half-Life 2 was the gravity gun.
Yeah.
It's a
physics.
gun.
Havoc physics.
I mean, that was like a thing.
I will tell you, one of the things that has irritated me this week, it just as an old man on his lawn, is breathless, oh my god, Half-Life is back, like YouTube takes from people who were like 7 when Half-Life 2 came out. I'm like, you don't know.
Yeah, you don't care. You're just you know that you're supposed to feel that way.
Yeah, you know there's clicks here. That's all. This is not genuine like when Huber lost his mind when Shenmue 3 got announced. So you know that this is a big deal and you're sort of like trying to appeal to your dad.
Yeah. Yep. So the gravity gun was in Half-Life 2. In this game, we have the gravity gloves, which it seems as if this was the first rev of the technology, and you get it as gloves.
Which is weird in that, like, usually technology starts bigger and gets
smaller. Yeah.
I guess you could say they had fewer components to work with as the Combine occupation cracked down on things.
That's possible. They may also say that
I'm going to stop doing Valve's work for them now.
They may also end up saying ultimately that the gravity gloves can't pick up objects that are as big or as heavy, maybe. I don't know.
It's also like a really brilliant way around the limitations of VR.
Yep. It also is a good way to show the fact that they're gloves. It's perfect with the new Knuckles controllers. Like, it allows Valve to show off its new tech.
The synergy is palpable.
It absolutely is. Here's a big departure from prior Half-Life games. Alyx talks.
What? Well, the only person who doesn't actually talk is Gordon. So.
Yeah, I mean, everyone else talks but I mean, the protagonist will talk in this game. And it seems from the trailer she's really chatty.
Yeah.
But Alyx...
She was never shy
no.
in 2.
Yeah. Alyx has a new voice actor, though. They did not bring back the voice actor who handled her before. G-Man returns with the original voice actor, though. He has the same guy still. And he's been actually, it's the same voice actor since Half-Life 2. There was a different one for the first Half-Life. The trailer did 10 million views in 24 hours. That is like Cyberpunk 2077 levels. Games just simply do not do traffic like that anymore. They just don't.
But how many of those will convert into sales?
Yeah, you don't know, but still.
I mean, it could be the thing that catches VR on fire in the core gaming world, but like, I don't know. I wonder how many people are just curious and in the end are sort of bitter about the idea that they are expected to buy a VR headset to play more of this thing they like. Which is, of course, how everything... I mean, that's what Sony's counting on me to buy a PS5 if I want to play more Spider-Man. I mean, that's just how it works.
Yeah.
But it's funny how there's still that sort of barrier with a VR headset versus like a game console or a new graphics card.
Yep, and then the voice actor who does Eli Vance, Alex's dad, that's a new voice actor. Because I think was it Robert Guillaume that did the voice?
Yeah, I think he
and he died. Yeah, so they had to replace him. So understandable. They're saying that the game itself is as long as Half-Life 2. So
Half-Life 2 was no joke.
It's about 20 hours, roughly.
It was long.
20-hour VR game, that's probably a record.
I reviewed it for XPlay. I went up to Valve and played it there, and I got like maybe halfway through it. Like, and I was there all day. Like,
yep.
It was
like a 20-hour game.
Yeah. Every once in a while, Doug or Gabe or someone would come in and watch me play, and if you want to know what pressure feels like,
that'll do it.
Like, I'm just like, why are you watching me play?
That is one thing.
Every time I was stuck on anything, they would come and say, stuck. I'm like, God.
Yeah,
I just spent like an hour getting like constant forward motion, and you show up exactly when I can't figure out what I'm supposed to do.
That is one thing about review events, like now that they don't really happen anymore. That is one thing about review events that always annoyed the crap out of me, was when the developers would walk around and watch you play their game. Because inevitably they'll stop and they'll be like, oh, you should do that this way. It's like, no. This is how I'm playing the game. The fact that I'm doing it this other way shows that you didn't do a good enough job in telling me that's the way I'm supposed to do it.
Although sometimes they just fuck with you. Like I remember one time I'd gone the wrong way, or I was doing something that I was like I couldn't get past the part, and I think it was Call of Duty. I think it was Modern Warfare 2 or something, and like Vince was there, and I'm just like, what do I do? He's like, I don't know, I don't play this crap.
Most of the time, it's not that way.
No.
Usually the developer knows the game very, very well.
Vince could say that because he was the head of the
right.
big cheese. I'm sure the people that work, the people that worked on the individual levels would come in and be like,
yeah. But now the review events are gone, and we just basically review games on our couch.
When I did Modern Warfare 1, they actually had the level designer for the all gillied up thing.
Yeah.
They let me try it once, and then I died like most of the way through. And they just had the level designer come in and finish that part for me because like it's too hard. We're gonna fix it later. It's like just get through that.
Oh wow!
And then we went to lunch.
Interesting.
I mean, I literally got to the end, but like the last part was it was that showdown at the Ferris wheel, and it was just too hard.
Yeah,
it was crazy. And then I played it again
and beat it like the first time.
First try, no question.
That's because you went down the right path that the game wanted you to go down. It's like I said about Call of Duty. If you stray off of the path, things go wrong. You can't finish. You can't finish the level.
There's an absolute yellow brick road design to it.
Yep.
Half-Life 2 did not have that problem.
Yep. So now that we know all this about Alyx, first of all, I think it sounds freaking amazing, and I'm really excited for it. But do you think it's enough to send VR into the mainstream?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I don't think Half-Life has that kind of cachet with outside the core gaming demographic anymore.
But doesn't VR just really need the core demographic to adopt it? It doesn't really need like the casuals.
To start with, yeah.
It needs the core of us to get behind it and say, this is good now, and this is something that you should buy.
Yeah, and then you move out from there. I think that's right.
So
although, look, if you look at the chat, speaking of Beat Saber, it looks like Facebook just bought them.
Bought Beat Saber.
The developer of Beat Saber, yeah.
That was smart.
That's too bad.
It was smart, though.
I mean, it is smart.
Because it's the best-selling VR game in the world. I'm sure it was
lucrative for the Beat Saber guys, too.
And good for them. Yeah.
But that's too bad.
I just saw like a Mountain Dew commercial or something with Beat Saber in it.
Yeah, like, it's a cultural touchstone at this point.
Yeah, like people see it now and they're like, that's VR gaming. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about. Do you think this could change that?
I don't think one game can change anything.
Yeah.
I think this will help. It'll at least pave the way. Maybe in the way Half-Life 1 did, it'll pave the way. Be like, hey, look, you can make real games with real stories, with real engagement in VR. You just have to do it like... I mean, I think it could launch 1,000 clones that maybe do it almost as well. Like, I think that might be the biggest hope, is not just that you get some kind of killer app, but that killer app leads to, oh, we could do this. So in the same way that Mario Brothers did.
Yeah.
The people forget how many Mario clones there were on the NES, but like it was one of those revelatory moments where it's like, oh, this is how this works.
Yeah.
And that was even more so because that was the side-scrolling thing was a thing that PCs couldn't do at the time. That was like a big deal. It was like, how do you get things to scroll? Whereas this console and arcade hardware could just scroll all day.
That's what it was made for.
So it became a way you could make these things, and sort of Nintendo led the charge on, here's how you use this tech. So Valve could do the same with this, and I think other games have done the similar. I mean, it's not like it's the first developer to figure out how to make a VR game properly, but like I think I think VR is looking for a template. You know what I mean? They're looking for a standard mode, and Valve is kind of pretty good at figuring that out.
Yeah, I think I go back to what you've kind of been saying all along, which is until the prices drop on the hardware, it's just a really, really hard.
I mean, really, you need also in conjunction, you need cheaper prices on the goggles, and they need to be self-contained.
Yeah,
you need
to
be able
Quest
to.
Obviously is there.
Yeah,
now,
but it's not like the power isn't there. It's still very blurry.
Yeah.
Even on those void things you pay $40 for. I mean, I can't see facial expressions on those. I can't. It's too blurry to see characters when they're talking to you effectively. Like, I don't know if Doctor Strange in that Avengers thing in Void looks like Benedict Cumberbatch because I can't see his goddamn face.
Right.
It's just sort of bleh. So yeah, but I mean that's only going to get better as more iteration. But when you can just buy one that looks really good, that can do justice to those graphics we see in that footage, and just grab it off the table and stick it on your head and slip the finger things on and you're playing. I mean, that's when you really have an opportunity to break out. But until then, appealing to people like us who are willing to put up with bullshit for the name of a new experience with something like Half-Life is probably a smart way to go, but I really would rather just play Half-Life 3.
Yeah, but I mean, let's be honest, like
whatever it takes to get there, I guess.
I mean, to be honest, most of us didn't adopt VR.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about evangelists, people who are the gamer in their group of friends who all their friends go to ask them whether they should buy stuff or not. Like, those people haven't bought VR still. Like, PlayStation VR sold a couple million. It sounds like Vive sold 1 million or 2. Sounds like Rift sold 1 million or 2.
And also, I don't think you're ever going to get... I mean, so much of gaming in terms of the mainstream and the things that make things, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 million sellers, people just want to sit on a couch and play a game.
Yeah.
Like,
you can't do that.
There's too much work involved in these in something like VR. VR is an experience versus like turn on Fortnite and get stoned. There's two very different things, and not everybody wants that other experience.
Yeah. I think if Valve weren't swimming in money, we'd get a 2D version of this game. But it's not.
Probably true.
It doesn't need the money. And so I think
swimming in money and doing their own headset. That helps.
It can afford to stand on its principles and not worry about whether this one game turns a profit or not.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's not going to hurt to be like kind of like its best on index kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sort of like the Nvidia thing, like how it's meant to be played or whatever.
I think what's bothered me the most about these subsequent generations of VR is they're missing what we've been talking about, which is making it not as cumbersome to play. Quest is getting there.
Yeah.
But like they're not dropping the price. So they introduce a new one and then they just drop the price of the old one. So they're not, when they're putting out new hardware, they're not saying, you know what, this is the best hardware on the market. If we want this to succeed, we probably need to take a little bit of a loss on this. And maybe they still are. And then maybe
I would guess they are.
Then maybe they need to take more of a loss, because anytime you're selling something for like $800, $900, $1,000, you're never going to get a mass audience. You're just not.
Well, the cost of those screens that are in the headset and the lenses, like those are never coming down for a long time. The cutting edge of those things is going to cost what they cost. I think they need to be focused. The thing is, and I think maybe the Index is a sign of this, and Facebook does seem, the Oculus does seem to be sort of looking at this a little bit. I think you need to really be looking at not just what is our new model that we're going to sell for $900 and it's going to be the best thing, but like you got to take a look at the lifespan of that thing and say, like, when we're really going to sell these to people is going to be when the next model's out and these things drop by half. How do we make this thing still appealing 4 years from now? Right,
when there's the hot new thing out there. Like, with VR, you almost have to be even more coy than like a platform holder would be. A platform holder, you can get away with like starting to slip details out about the next whatever, and it's not going to affect your bottom line that much with your current platform. With VR, it could absolutely sabotage it.
Yeah.
Because then it's looked at as like it's not the hot new thing. And if you're going to spend, even if you're going to spend $500 on something, so say Rift S is discounted and now it's half price and you're spending $400 or $500 for it, you still need like assurances to do that. Like you need to feel good about it. Nobody just casually spends $400 or $500. So when you're buying something for that amount of money, you need to feel like this is still hot. Like this is a cool piece of tech. And I feel like with VR, when you're saying, okay, now this is half price, this one, the new one's $800 to $1,000, you're kind of admitting that the old one is kind of a piece of junk at that point. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's kind of been a deterrent for people to adopt VR, even when the old model kind of gets to a reasonable price. Like, particularly VR, it is this bleeding edge technology. It's what you've built up in people's minds around the tech. And to then come out and say, well, now we have what's really the hot tech, and here's this other one, we're going to discount it. I just don't think that that's conducive to that market in particular. I don't
Probably
know.
not.
But anyway, no matter how you slice it, Half-Life Alyx is a big frickin' deal. Even if you're just a Half-Life fan, you don't care about VR, you're going to get more Half-Life after this. They did say provided it doesn't just completely tank. And it's not. I mean, the only reason it would tank is because people don't have VR headsets. It's not because people aren't interested and they don't want to play it. Mm-hmm. So I think ultimately Valve will figure that out, and we're going to get more Half-Life. Thank God, after all this time, it looks like we're back on the path where, you know what, you can expect a Half-Life game every 4 years or something instead of like every lifetime.
Let's not go nuts just yet.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like they haven't spent a ton of time working on this. It started as like a little dinky demo to help sell Vive. And as they started messing around with it, they started realizing, hey, like we have something here. We can make a full game out of this. So even if you don't have a VR helmet and you love Half-Life, you might want to buy this game. That's all I'm saying. Because it is going to be the barometer that they use to determine whether the franchise goes forward. It looks like they're leaning towards it. So if it does pretty well, it sounds like we're good, man. We're locked and loaded for Half-Life.
I mean, it's as though they couldn't have just made Half-Life 3 and still been successful.
No, you're right. And then the next question becomes, do you put it out day and date on the consoles?
Yeah.
You're saying yes, you do?
I don't know. No, I say yeah, that is the question.
Yeah. It would
Probably
be weird.
Not.
Probably not. Yeah. I mean, you definitely want Steam to get a big chunk of that, like right out of the gate before it starts going to all these other
there's no reason not to drive people to Steam before you start letting Sony and Microsoft have a cut of it.
Even if it's like a 4-month or
Although
whatever.
maybe you re-release the orange box.
Yeah. But it came way later, though.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, not with Half-Life 3, but just be like, here's the orange box again.
Yeah.
Or Portal, whatever.
That would work. Portal's still a great game.
We could use versions of Half-Life 1 and 2 on the modern consoles.
Yep, for sure. That's a good point, actually. What about just like a remake of Half-Life 1?
Yeah. I mean, they did that already. Maybe do it again.
They did it already?
Half-Life Source?
Yeah, I guess you're right. They put it into the Source engine. Yeah. That's not a remake, though. That's like a remaster, I guess. Well, no, I guess they did have to remake it.
That's a remake.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. It may be like the first remake ever, now that you think about it.
I mean, I think a couple PC games where I would say the Super Mario All-Stars games are remakes.
Yeah.
Especially in the way that they screwed up the jumping mechanics on Mario 1.
Well, at least now you know that they actually like built something
also,
new.
Kind of any time you put an arcade game on a home system in the 80s, you had to remake it.
That's true. Yeah, because they just didn't have the arcade hardware.
You couldn't port it. You had to literally make it again.
You had to remake it. Which is why a lot of them ended up being
Terrible.
Yeah.
Pac-Man 2600, probably the worst remake of all time.
That's true. That is the first remake. There it is. That's the first remake.
No, there were others, but that's
before
the one
Pac-Man.
Oh yeah,
on the 2600.
It was Asteroids and Missile Command and
because Pac-Man came a little later.
Yeah,
that's true.
Defender.
Pac-Man was like the big game for the Christmas after it launched, if I remember correctly.
No, it was like 2 or 3 years.
Was it that long?
It was like 82.
After?
Yeah.
Was it?
Or 80. It was 80.
You see the photo I posted on Twitter of me with my first video game console?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so my wife was digging through photos, and she found a photo of me and my sister, who obviously now will rest in peace, with our console in the 70s, the Telstar Marksman.
Wow.
Yep.
I don't think I've ever even seen one of those in person.
We couldn't figure out what year it was, but I'm leaning on one side of it, and she's leaning on the other, and we are just all smiles. It's a great photo. You should check it out. My Twitter handle is @Dinfire if you want to see it. But yeah, we couldn't figure out the exact year the photo was taken, but we think it was like 77 or 78. But yeah, there I am. I'm like...
Released in 78.
Yeah, I'm like a toddler or whatever. I'm like a little kid.
Yeah, probably 78.
Yep. So anyway, if you want to see it, go check it out.
I was not yet aware of video games at that point.
I was well aware of them and obsessed with them.
First time I saw a video game was 1979, Asteroids, Farrell's Ice Cream Parlor, San Mateo, California.
Arcade.
I remember that was one of my earliest memories of seeing that Asteroids machine and being like, "What is that?" Like, like I knew the instant I saw that.
Something's gonna happen. It's gonna be big. I knew it too. You can see it on my face in that picture. Check it out. Vincent's actually linked to it in the chat if the people in the chat want to check it out. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about the Game Awards. They're coming up December 10th. Jeff Keighley's annual
12th.
extravaganza. 12? Okay.
Thursday.
Keighley would kill me for getting that date wrong.
Yeah.
December 12th. Keighley's big annual project, he's got all kinds of little side stuff going on now. He did like the final hours of Half-Life Alyx, and so he's a busy guy, but his big thing every year is the Game Awards.
And he's got that big Gamescom show now.
That's right. Yep.
Which is coming back next year.
That's coming back. Yeah, they just announced that that's coming back too. But his biggest thing is coming up here in a few weeks. I think the Game Awards...
Certainly, I'd say the thing closest to his heart.
Yeah, do you think he's a little disappointed that Valve didn't hold it until the Game Awards? He was only just 2 weeks away. Think about it, though. He did he knew about this a long time ago, was at Valve doing a documentary about the development of the game, and he could not get the exclusive on it for the Game Awards.
That is too bad.
That's weird.
Yeah.
But... what happened
Valve wants to stand alone.
I think what happened is the story broke. And Valve is like, okay, people are speculating about this. What do we do about it? And they just were like, we're just going to put the trailer out.
You can't just wait for 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
Because that's when things spiral out of control.
It's 2 weeks away.
Or someone at your company says something stupid or does something stupid and you lose half your fan. Like, I think Valve did the right thing. Still got to be a bit of a disappointment for Jeff to not lock that down.
Maybe we'll see a little more.
We'll get another piece of it, I'm guessing.
I'll probably talk to Gabe or something.
And I'm sure, look, there's going to be plenty of awesome exclusives at the Game Awards. There always are.
World premiere.
Yeah, but that's not what we're here to discuss. We're here to discuss the actual awards. You know, the part that just usually kind of gets shoved off to the side? Although I will say last year he did do a better job of getting more awards.
He did better. I mean, I think they should. I mean, look, it's a commercial. Like, the awards are an excuse to have the event. No one really cares that much. Like, if you want to talk about equivalents to the Oscars, you're looking at stuff like the DICE Awards or the GDC Choice Awards, because those are chosen by other developers. They're chosen by peers. I will say this, though. It did seem like Cory Barlog was pretty damn excited to win. I would say so, yeah. I mean, the recognition...
When God of War won.
Also, I mean, you got to feel like a little vindication as Cory Barlog, just because that's got to be scary, like reinventing that series and, like, you know, something that... A series that... frankly, people were sick of by the time they got their fourth version out, to the point that people don't even remember the fourth game very well anymore. Yeah. Reinventing it completely, messing with all this stuff, and like wondering if like anyone's even going to accept it. Like, so yeah, I can understand like anything like that would be incredibly vindicating.
I think the industry cares. Do they care more about stuff like DICE? Maybe.
I mean, it's more of a party than the other games, the other Game Awards.
The others are like more formal and more buttoned up.
Yeah, this is more the MTV Movie Awards.
Yeah, that's a good analogy actually. This is like the MTV Movie Awards versus the Oscars.
Right.
Yeah. So we're gonna get tons of trailers and debuts. We know that, but what we're here to talk about is the awards. They announced all the nominees for like every category. Mm-hmm. We have, I think they put out a trailer.
Death Stranding overlooked for Esports Coach of the Year. I cannot believe it.
Jared, I think you have a trailer in there that runs through all the nominees. But we're really just going to talk about the Game of the Year nominees. So they listed, five? They have 5 nominees for each category? 1, 2,
6
3,
Game of the Year
4,
nominees.
6 nominees. And we'll just go through these one by one, and we'll kind of share our opinions on whether we believe that they're worthy of being a top 6 game for 2019. First up is Control. We love the game.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
It did well with critics. It has done awful at retail.
Yeah, one thing I thought was interesting is when they announced the nominees, I saw on a lot of on Twitter when people were listing the nominees, there were tons of people on Twitter and Reddit that were like, I don't know what Control is. I've never heard of that game. What the fuck is Control?
Wow.
Like, I mean, some of them were arguing it shouldn't be nominated for Game of the Year because they hadn't heard of it. Which is like, I don't think you understand what awards are.
Yeah, that doesn't
But like
surprise me
the
at
fact
all.
that so many people had no idea Control was even a thing was striking to me. And to be fair, I didn't really know what it was before, like a week before it came out either.
Yeah.
Like I only knew what it was and found out what it was because I think you ran it as a trailer of the week, and I realized like, oh, I'm gonna have to play that because we're gonna talk about it.
Yeah.
If I wasn't on this show, I don't know if I would have even noticed.
Yep. They did a terrible job marketing this game, both before launch and post-launch.
But it is one of my favorites of the year.
It is absolutely one of the best games of the year. So it definitely deserves to be on there. Next up, you already kind of cracked a little bit of a joke about this. Death Stranding, which has literally been nominated for everything.
Yes.
Everything.
If it can be nominated for it, it was.
Yeah, I mean, literally the only categories that it wasn't nominated in are where it just you couldn't. Like you said, like best esports athlete or best like influencer.
Yeah, probably no trending gamer of the year.
No,
for this
but
one.
Everything else,
yeah.
It was nominated. It is in every category. And I will say this, as I started looking down through the categories, a lot of them I couldn't argue with. Because a lot of the categories are like best voice acting, best cinematography, best... I mean, if you look at those awards, they're all kind of set up to reward games made by Hideo Kojima.
Pretty much.
It's kind of funny. Like, I looked at the list of it, and I was like, you know what? I can't really argue against it being included in most of these
I can argue
categories.
against it being not nominated for best writing.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, give me a break. But of course it was going to. I mean, there's no way it wouldn't be. I mean, I know, like, Jeff doesn't choose these things himself, so it's not like, I don't think there's, like, some weird...
Yeah, it's not a conspiracy
or like corruption by. I don't think it's. I mean, all that stuff is funny, like that people talk about, but I don't think that's in play here. I think it's just it's a prominent game in what I would consider a fairly
barren year,
fairly non-standout year, frankly. Yeah, like it was going to be there.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I would say is the game just came out.
Well, barely squeaked in.
It's like I wonder.
Jedi Fallen Order doesn't get to be in. It was after the deadline.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's why it's not nominated for anything.
I wondered about that. I also wonder if everybody who voted for these awards, and generally they're editors-in-chief of various publications. I used to be a part of it when I was the EIC of Game Trailers. I wonder if they've actually all played this game, like, won it all, two, all the way through.
I mean, the big outlets got it like a month ahead of time or something.
Yeah,
so,
but the
editor-in-chief...
It's the editor-in-chief typically, though. And EICs, like, at least when I was at GT, like, you can play what you want, generally. You don't just have to play stuff. Now, people will play this as an EIC because you're going to need to for your Game of the Year discussions. I just wonder how much playtime was actually rolled into the votes that this got for the Game Awards because it came so quickly right after it released. You got to remember, too, that they start tabulating the votes from the EICs weeks from ago. Mm-hmm. So even though they just announced the nominees, and that happened to be a few days after Death Stranding came out, they actually were tabulating the nominations weeks ago. If it still works the way it did in the past and the way the Game Awards work, and I'm assuming that it does, I could be wrong, but I think I'm probably right on that. But anyway, it is in every category. So no matter what, I mean, somehow, some way, Death Stranding is going to win more than one award.
Yeah.
I mean, and probably at the end of it all, it may have won more awards than any other game.
Yeah, and the tell will probably be whether Kojima's there or not.
Oh, he'll be there.
Because if someone's
definitely be there.
If someone's gonna fly from Japan to be somewhere, you better give him a trophy.
Yeah, I mean he'll be there.
I think I deserved a trophy every time I flew to Japan.
Seriously, it's a crap.
That flight is brutal. Is a haul.
It is brutal for sure. Particularly coming back when you fly over the international date line and live the same point in time twice in your life. That's when your brain just like, I give up. Okay, so Death Stranding. Obviously, one of the big six, pretty much the biggest game in all the nominations.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. As James Cameron said about Alien 3, it's not how I would have done it.
Yeah,
but I certainly would nominate it for all the technical stuff.
Yeah, it's a good-looking game. Next, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So you talked about how Star Wars just barely missed the cut this
Smash
year.
Brothers didn't make it in.
It happened to Smash Brothers last year.
Yeah, Smash Brothers really didn't make the cut because it was December.
Yep, and this is a little...
It was like a week before the show.
Right, yeah. It came out like right before the show happened. It's a little weird, though, because particularly with a game like Smash that's received a ton of post-launch support. So you figure all these other games it is competing with, some of them have been out for like 2 weeks. It's been out for a year. So it has the advantage of having all this extra content to consider. Do you think that gives Smash Brothers a shot at actually winning Game of the Year from the Game Awards?
No.
No?
I don't think it has a chance at all
No?
of winning.
Yeah,
No.
I probably don't either.
It's quote-unquote old, and also it's a fighting game. Fighting games don't win Game of the Year.
No, it never has. It probably never will.
Yeah.
It's just too niche of a genre at this point. Do you think...
You probably give it some other thing. I don't remember all the different categories. There's probably a category in there you could give it. I mean, I think you would be hard-pressed to give any other game best music. Just because of the breadth and depth of the music that's in this thing.
The catalog is insane.
I mean, it's real. I mean, that would be an obvious win for it. But I'm sure it'll get something, but I don't see it getting Game of the Year. Not against, frankly, not against Death Stranding. I think Death Stranding is going to pretty much sweep this thing.
Really?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that would
give
Smash
not
Game
how
of
I
the
would
Year
have done it.
over Death Stranding. I think the majority of people would give Game of the Year to Smash.
I
over
would
Death
give I would give any other game on this list Game of the Year over.
Well, that's us,
absolutely.
But I think most people would agree with would say.
I don't know. Maybe most people, but not most editors in chief.
Apparently not.
There's that weird thing where it's like, oh, it was different and unique and daring and took risks and didn't do
That's
this.
the crazy thing about that game. I don't feel that way about it at all.
Well, neither do I, but they say that all the time, and that was all the reviews. It's like, it's weird and doesn't make any sense, and it's terrible and boring, and it's brilliant and genius and 10 out of 10. It was very strange.
It is weird.
Sentiments towards it, and I think it's just the right amount of old. Now it's just been around long enough that everyone's digested it enough to be like, that was pretty great. It's like no one remembers Control. Smash Brothers is old. The other one, I don't see the other ones having the verve or the social media presence to really pop up in someone's mind. I mean, I would certainly vote for any of these over Death Stranding.
We're actually going to play. So after we get through all these nominees, we're going to play a name game. I am going to give you a list of games that are not Game of the Year nominees, and you're going to tell me whether you think they deserve to be in the top 6 or not. But we need to get through these first. Next up, Resident Evil 2 Remake. This is a really tough one because there are lots of rules generally in place to keep games like this from being Game of the Year. I mean, we basically have a rule that we try not to recognize remakes or remasters as Game of the Year candidates here on Sifted. Everyone has a right to handle their editorial however they want. What's your take on this as far as Resident Evil 2 is concerned, the remake?
I mean, Resident Evil 2 is more of a more extensive remake than a lot of them they are.
It's almost like a new game.
But I would argue that if I can't nominate Shadow of the Colossus remake, you don't nominate this. At the same time, I feel this year was so sparse in standout titles, certainly in the AAA space, that if you disqualify Resident Evil 2, you are actually disqualifying one of the best games of the year.
It is.
And
that's the crazy part. When
just
I played
to fill out the roster of the nominees, you want Resident Evil. Do I think it has a shot at winning? No. But should it be on there? I think it earned its place.
I agree. I mean, it would be hard for me to give it Game of the Year, but now that we're at the end of the year, it is absolutely one. I never dreamed.
It is definitely the best thing I played in the first half of the year.
I never dreamed when this year started, when we were talking about the Resident Evil 2 remake on GameFace, that I would be sitting here at the end of November saying it's one of the best games of the year.
Yeah.
Because
I was a little worried I might.
Because there were so many other games that were supposed to come out that were delayed into next year, and then some games just didn't end up being as good as I had hoped they were, like Death Stranding. So
it's that second one that was really the killer.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the best games of 2019. There's no doubt about it. It's just the way it is, and it's an indictment on what this year has been, to be perfectly honest with you. Next up, Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. I think you will have no problem with that being in the top 6.
No, absolutely belongs there.
It ended up selling pretty well, sold 3 or 4 million. Not that matters for this, but it did end up finding a pretty good audience.
Certainly did better than Control.
Oh yeah. What'd you think about that? 10 years ago, would you think that a game like Sekiro would sell better than a game like Control?
No.
No way.
A Remedy game versus a From Software game?
And just the content, just looking at the games. Like this ancient, feudal, really hard...
Yeah. Well, as Kojima says, Americans only care about shooting things.
Right, yeah.
So Control was definitely one of the best-selling games of the year versus a Samurai. No, it really wasn't. Yeah. It's almost like you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yep.
But I knew that already because I played your games.
Yeah, exactly. So Sekiro slides in there, and then the last Game of the Year nominee for the Game Awards is The Outer Worlds.
I was a little surprised. I mean, I don't disagree with this, but I was a little surprised by it because Outer Worlds feels a little...
Derivative?
Not derivative, but like...
It
feels like a first draft. You know, I feel like Outer Worlds 2 is going to be amazing. But Outer Worlds 1 was, that was pretty good. It felt good. It felt good to play a Fallout-style game again by some of the original people without sort of the baggage of Fallout that has developed over the course of the Bethesda era. But in terms of game, I mean, maybe I don't disagree with it for this year, but I feel like almost any other year this would be an also-ran.
I mean, this game being nominated just shows you what kind of year we had. I think this, more than any other game on the Game Award nominees list, this is the one that shows you, 2019 wasn't all that great for video games.
Yeah, it's the one that makes you go like, really? Yeah,
but
really?
You know what?
Yeah.
Well, we'll see about that.
You know,
Let's play the name game, Matt. So
it's like BioShock Infinite. It's like, yeah, I liked it, but was it that good? I guess
ultimately it was.
In the end, yeah, it's like, I don't know.
In the grand scale of things, I guess. All right, so I have a list of games here. I'm going to read them, and you tell me if any one of them you think deserves to be a nominee over any of the 6 nominees I have right now. Devil May Cry 5.
No.
88 Metacritic. No.
No.
Fire Emblem 3 Houses.
I mean, I would probably put that there over Smash Brothers.
Over Smash?
Because I don't care much for Smash Brothers at this point.
I might even put it in over the Outer Worlds, to be honest with you.
Maybe. Yeah.
They're kind of similar. Neither one of them are like Game of the Year material.
I mean, the weak points here are Death Stranding, Smash Brothers, and Outer Worlds for me. Like
those are the 3 that are going to be plucked out.
Those are the 3 that I just didn't resonate with me the same way as the others.
So Fire Emblem, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I would not be mad at Fire Emblem being included.
Okay.
Hell, I wouldn't be mad if it was the 7th. Just wanted to make, just want to go Oscar with it and be like, nominate 10 of them.
Yeah.
You can include that. I like that one a lot.
I spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of time with it.
Yeah, it was a lot of time.
like 2 work weeks.
I never finished it.
Up. I did. I made it somehow. Next, Apex Legends.
No.
No? Not for any of the 6?
No. I mean, it's probably my favorite Battle Royale, but it didn't hold my attention more than 2 weeks.
Okay.
That's just me.
Okay. Super Mario Maker 2.
No. If
it was Super Mario Maker 1, do you think it would make the list?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mario Maker 2, for whatever reason, just did not have any staying power to me. Which is weird because I was looking forward to it quite a bit.
I played it enough to talk about it on GameFace.
Honestly, if you hadn't mentioned it there, I don't think I ever would have
remembered it even came out. I did some work on this to try to dig up the best other games from this year. Next up, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening Remake.
No.
No?
No. I mean, I know that's there to kind of like highlight the Resident Evil 2 thing to some degree, but no.
Okay.
It wasn't nearly as extensive a remake procedure. It wasn't, Resident Evil 2 felt like a different game a lot of times. Link's Awakening was pretty much a straight redo, and I was never that huge a fan of Link's Awakening to begin with. So
okay.
Good game, not great.
Astral Chain.
No. I didn't like that very much.
You didn't?
No.
Interesting.
I kind of bounced off the combat in that game.
Oh, I loved the combat. I didn't like anything else, though.
I never went back to it after we talked about it.
Oh, okay, I did. I enjoyed that game a good bit. And then I saved this one for last because I think you'll say yes. Disco Elysium.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Disco Elysium gets screwed on this one because none of the editors played
it. Yeah. It was nominated for Best RPG.
Yeah, well, sure. But it should be nominated for Game of the Year over almost everyone on that list.
Yep. And then my personal pet pick, Luigi's Mansion 3.
I am a little shocked it's not on there. Like, I know I wouldn't nominate it for Game of the Year, but it feels like the kind of Game of the Year also ran bait that like would be nominated by modern press editor-in-chiefs. Like, just feels like there's that soft spot for Nintendo, but maybe there's no soft spot for Luigi.
Smash apparently is where the soft spot is.
Well, I mean, Smash is huge, so you gotta give it the nod. And also, I think Smash is sort of your plausible deniability for years to come. Of like, see, we don't forget the games that don't make the cut in December or whatever.
Are you surprised with the year that Switch had that there's only one Switch game out of the 6?
I mean, I thought Fire Emblem was really good. It surprised me there wasn't a little more love for that. But I mean, if you gotta pick one, you gotta probably pick Smash Brothers, just in terms of visibility.
I mean, it also scored the highest.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Nintendo like had a lot of like solid picks, but not like out of this world stuff.
No Mario or Zelda.
Yeah,
that's really the difference.
And
maybe next year Animal Crossing.
I mean, Luigi. I don't. Is there a best animation or best graphics? Is just
there's
graphics?
Yeah,
because Luigi should be in there.
I mean, I think it got nominated for a couple things, just not Game of the Year. Yeah. So there you go. That's the Game Awards 2019 nominees.
I don't super argue with any of the 6 Game of the Year.
Yeah,
picks.
I think you can make a case for the 6 that are there. I don't think there's any egregious error in their nominees. I think they mostly make sense.
I mean, there's a few that aren't in there that I would be like, oh, it would be nice to see, like Plague Tale, or
it actually was nominated for best narrative, best story.
All right, that's or Greedfall, which I think is an RPG.
I didn't see Greedfall anywhere.
No, that's a shame. Greedfall was better than it deserved to be.
I mean, it's probably better than Outer Worlds.
I don't know if I'd go that far. Outer Worlds a little more interesting place to explore, I would say.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Although Greedfall is also, I like Greedfall in part because it's the best BioWare game.
that isn't a BioWare game.
Dragon Age, that's right. Since Mass Effect 3, frankly. I mean, BioWare just doesn't make them anymore.
Yeah, if they even really exist anymore. So anyway, there you go. The nominees for the Game Awards. They happen December 12th. Is that Thursday?
Thursday, yeah.
Yeah,
it's always on a Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday, December 12th.
So everyone can party on Friday.
Yeah. And I don't think it's on television this year. I think it's still just streaming. And, yeah. I'm surprised Jeff hasn't got this on TV yet. I thought this might be the year.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, the presentation's there.
Yeah, it's just I think Game Awards are a hard sell. Everyone.
Gee, I wonder why.
Everyone remembers Spike TV
or G4ia.
VGAs
and G4ia were not good harbingers for video game award shows.
But if you like the Black Eyed Peas, G4ia 2006 was a damn festival in there.
Oh, there was another band there too that did that song called "Honest Mistake." They're like an indie band. What the hell is their name?
I know what you're talking. It was Black Eyed Peas and them
and the indie band.
And I can't remember who they were.
And they disappeared after that. They made one good album and we never seen them again.
Yeah,
so
that was our fault.
It might have been.
We
might have ruined their career.
But William Shatner showed up to that party, so that was worth it.
That's true. Yeah, he was like hanging out the whole time. I saw him just like milling around like all day long. He was just there. It's pretty cool.
The bravery. That was it.
The bravery. Yeah.
Thank you, Mega Drive guy.
Yeah, good job. Well, they can Google stuff. But their first album was pretty good, The Bravery. Yeah. And then after that, they did put out one other album, and it was abysmal. So are you looking forward to this kind of stuff?
They can't all be the National.
The performances?
Oh, God, no.
Yeah.
No, please.
I don't know. I mean, they're typically the better parts of the show.
No, the parts of the show I want to see are the trailers. And occasionally the heartfelt developer acceptance speeches. But no, the performances are no.
Well, some of them are. It depends. No. The ones where they just get like Joe Band to show up and play, they suck.
I mean, if you want to play like I guess orchestral versions of the game themes and stuff, that's
like
fine.
The thing they did with Red Dead, I thought was awesome.
But what I'm thinking about is like when they just have Imagine Dragons come and play
just
for
because
no apparent reason because Jeff wants to hang out with Imagine Dragons after the show.
Or because they have like 1 million followers on Twitter that they can tweet to and people might tune in.
The only thing I'm really if you even want to say looking forward to, it's like, I'm going to see the world premieres.
Yeah. So I think that's what most people look forward to.
For God's sake, show me some Metroid. I don't care whether it's Prime 4 or the Metroid Trilogy Collection or whatever the hell. Just show me some goddamn Samus Aran.
I think we might. What else is Nintendo going to give Jeff for this? I mean, they always hook him up with something.
Well, you got Animal Crossing.
Oh, jeez. They already gave us enough of that, man.
Man, I would pay money to have Reggie come back to present that. And when Jeff complains, like, what? We gave you Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Again.
That would be good, but I doubt
that. That was one of my favorite Jeff Reggie moments.
I think Reggie's going to leave the gaming industry in his rearview mirror.
You don't think Reggie would come back for a cameo for Jeff? I bet he might.
Maybe.
If Jeff wanted him to, I bet he would.
If they paid him, maybe.
Yeah, if they paid for his travel and lodging, maybe. But like,
yeah.
It would be fun. It would be fun to see Reggie again.
Yep. All right, we got to move on.
You can't spend all winter at Cornell.
Nope, that's true. We're running out of time.
Although it is a school night.
Yeah. We're going to talk next about another remake. This has also been kind of like the remake episode. We're going to talk about Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Reports came out this week that it is absolutely being remade, and it will be released next year. So it looks like this time next year, we might be talking about the Resident Evil 3 remake and whether it should be a Game of the Year contender.
They've been talking about this since pretty much the day Resident Evil 2 came out.
Well, the problem is that they talked about it, then they denied it, and then they talked about it again.
They said maybe if it's popular, if there's demand.
And now they're basically committing, yes, it's going to happen.
There was never really any doubt.
Yeah, for me either. There was never really any doubt. How do you feel about Resident Evil 3 versus Resident Evil 2?
Oh, Resident Evil 2 is the best game in the series until 4.
Yeah.
I realize it's only 4 games, but like Resident Evil 2 is like probably, other than 4, the one I have the best opinion of, whereas Resident Evil 3 was fine.
I liked the idea behind it. It took the Mr. X stuff from RE2 and put it into the whole game. Mm-hmm. So you constantly have Nemesis hunting you down, tracking you down.
Resident Evil 2 definitely had its rough edges as well, and the remake smoothed a lot of that out. So if they give Resident Evil 3 the same treatment, it could turn out to be really great. So I'm very in favor of it.
But you're saying that the base project that they have to work from is not as strong.
I don't think it's as good as 2, no. I think most people would consider 2 to be the best of the PS1.
Oh yeah,
Resident Evils.
It's pretty much unanimous that RE2 is the best. But do you think that based upon the work that they did do on 2, if they put that equivalent amount of work into the RE3 remake, do you think it could be better than the original?
The original 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah.
There's the bones are there. The skeleton for something really good is there. A lot of the problems were just execution, and a lot of the problems were just that pre-rendered backgrounds suck, and having to deal with all the weird camera stuff and the awkward controls sucked. And you give it the same treatment as Resident Evil 2, you at least got my attention.
Yeah. Resident Evil 3, I remember playing this for review back when it came out. And
stars.
Yeah. Yeah. And it does add like a lot of tension to the game, the fact that he's chasing you. But after a while, it does start to get annoying.
Yeah. Also,
you're just like,
that is not the outfit you pick if you need to escape from a zombie-infested town. I'm just saying. She comes home, changes out of her uniform into a club wear, and decides to run around town all night in a halter top and a mini skirt. No.
Also notice that cinematic while she's running, it just pans directly in onto her boobs.
And then when she falls over, it's just like, oh, the camera's going to point up her skirt for no good reason. Maybe a little less of that in the remake would be good.
I have a feeling that'll definitely be dialed back for the remake.
Yeah, I'm sure that STARS uniform is pretty gross by the end of Resident Evil 2 or Resident Evil 1, but keep it on. Keep the long sleeves.
We talk all the time on the show about games, how games need peaks and valleys, that they need moments of extreme action, they need more quiet moments, because each one of them helps appreciate the other. Because of what I was saying about Resident Evil 3, about how you're being chased the whole game.
Why are you even carrying your extra magazines in that outfit?
Yeah, I know. Up the skirt, apparently.
Yes.
Because of that, maybe... I just lost my train of thought. What was I saying? I was saying peaks and valleys. Yeah. So because of great job, Jared. Thank you. Because Resident Evil 3, you're just constantly being chased. There are no valleys. It's just like one peak that stays there. So I think the opportunity for this game, if they are going to improve it, I think they might want to change a little bit about it and maybe even create some new sections of the game instead of just making it like a one-to-one replication.
I think that would be wise. And it's also in line with how they handled 2. So I think that's a very reasonable request and expectation for this. And I think they handled how the X chasing you in the remake very well.
Oh yeah, it was great.
I think their instincts are in the right place on this.
Yeah. We don't really have any hard information on it, platforms, release date, or anything like that. Just next year. We can probably assume PC, PS4,
pretty much the same.
Xbox One. Yeah, maybe
same
Switch
deal.
like a year later. Just the same thing with everything. PC, PS4, Xbox One,
Yep.
Switch a year later. That's
Switch,
pretty much how it works.
Switch a year late and $1 more.
Yeah. That is true. So anyway, Resident Evil 3 coming next year, probably to everything.
Yeah. Should be pretty good.
I'll be excited for it.
Yeah.
Not as excited as I was for RE2, though.
No, I mean, RE2 is the best, and it's sort of like the one that you really wanted to revisit. Resident Evil 3 is more like, hey, that's cool if you want to do that. I mean, really, if you do Resident Evil 3, you hit the point, it's like, well, okay, now do one. Now just do all of them. Like, just redo all 3 PS1 era.
And, of course,
Resident
Capcom will be like, we already did a remake.
Yeah, but do one that isn't
Evil.
annoying as fuck this time.
Yeah, make it 3D.
Make full 3D.
Yeah,
like, get it out of the weird pre-rendered world.
Crap. Yep.
I hate pre-rendered stuff. I always hated it.
Well, because it was a crutch.
Right. It was the best we could do at the time.
Right.
And we don't need to
There's
do that anymore.
There's no reason for it anymore. Yeah, I agree.
I hated the
100%.
GameCube remake of
Yeah.
of
Oh, I
Resident
liked
Evil.
it.
I hated it.
But that was like 20 years ago
Right.
when expectations were a lot different. I mean, back then, there were still tons of games with pre-rendered backgrounds.
There weren't that many. Like, it was a little weird that they were doing it pre-rendered at the time, but it was like they were doing it in super high-res stuff. So, like,
It looked really good.
but it's cheating.
It's all fake,
It's
yeah.
all everyone's like, oh my god, it's the best looking game. I'm like, it's a painting. It drove me
But
crazy.
they did some cool stuff, though, because couldn't you get, like, blood on the...
No.
I thought you could. I thought blood would...
You could get blood on the characters, but it didn't get on the backgrounds.
I thought it got onto the
No,
walls.
that was one of the most annoying things to me. Was like they die on the floor and there was no blood, nothing. It didn't impact anything.
I thought there was. I thought they had done
There weren't
some kind of a
like
trick.
specific things like.
It's been a long
plan
time
things.
since I played it.
Like I think it happened to like when the dog jumped through the wall, or like when there was things. But like a random zombie would not happen.
Huh. Interesting. It's been a long
It was
time
one of the
since
things
I
that
gave that one
annoyed
a
me.
spin.
It was like the weird sterility of the backgrounds in comparison to sort of the grittiness of the characters. Like just.
It did allow them to put a bunch of polygons into the character models and make them look amazing.
I mean, it was the trade-off was visible.
Yeah,
for sure.
it was a different approach, I
There's
guess.
things there.
Yeah.
I was like the what was it? The Crimson Heads. Like
Yeah.
we come right. That's a cool idea.
Yeah, it was.
Except
It mixed everything up.
It would have been cool if I could aim the fucking gun properly. But like
But
again,
no, the
make a
fixed
proper
cameras.
3D remake, and that solves your problem.
True.
So you
Yep.
can keep all those mechanics, but just do it without the stupid pre-rendered thing.
Okay. All right. It's time for our last topic of episode 192.
Would you be up for them like doing a full remake treatment like that to 4? Do you think 4 would benefit at all?
I
from
mean,
that?
I feel like it's already there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would pretty much agree with that.
Yeah.
It's been kind of updated through the years as
They
we've
could
moved
improve
forward.
it, but I don't think the work would be worth it ultimately.
No.
The minuscule improvements you get in different parts of the game would not be worth the overall
Yeah,
project.
probably not. Like, it doesn't need to be reimagined the way
Right.
the PS1 games do.
Yeah. All right. It's time for us to move on to our last topic of
Just
episode
keep porting it.
one.
Just
It
porting
works.
Porting it up.
It'll be a great game forever. That game will never be a bad game. Last topic,
Leon.
episode 192. It is almost Thanksgiving, and so it is time for Matt and I to hand out our annual Turkey Awards for 2019. We've done this for the last 6 years straight. Essentially, what we're doing is we're picking a runner-up and a winner for our Turkey Awards. And if you love turkey, don't get it wrong. We're not saying these are dubious awards. These are not. We're not trying to lavish praise upon anything in these awards. These are turkeys. People, games, companies, platforms, whatever, that really crap the bed in 2019. So like I said, we both have a runner-up, and then we have the winner. Matt, what is your first runner-up for the Turkey Awards for 2019?
Shenmue 3.
And so, as you guys know, usually the way GameFace is stacked is that the big story is always at the end of the show. Well, you may have been like, wow, they talked about Shenmue 3 first. Well, the reason we did that is because I knew that Matt's pick for Turkey was Shenmue 3, and doing Turkey Awards before that would tip his hand on his opinion for Shenmue. So, believe it or not, people, this show is very strategically put together. So, Do you need to say any more?
No, just rewind the show back to the beginning if you want to hear why this is. It's just a big disappointment.
Why was it not number one without saying what your number one is?
Because the idea of making Shenmue isn't stupid on its face.
Okay.
And I'd say my number one is.
Okay. All right. I can deal with that. My runner-up for the Video Game Turkey Awards for 2019 is E3 2019 and the ESA.
Ask me for a miracle, I give you the FBI.
Yeah. That was pretty good. Look, we obviously talked about the issues and the quibbles we had with E3 back in June and early July. I don't want to flog a dead horse with the issues with E3. If you guys are wondering what I'm talking about with the ESA, it was just another element that made E3 crappy, which was that they leaked all of our information. Pactor,
and they stole your car.
And they stole my car. That's a good point, man. Like, I didn't even consider that. Maybe it should be the winner, actually, now that I think about it. I did have my car stolen at E3 as well. So at the very least...
But got it back because car thieves can't drive stick anymore.
Yeah, exactly. But for the Crib Notes version of why E3 itself was included, we were angry that the ESA didn't do more to get people back or to make Sony come to the show. The floor was empty. There was not... The space where the big publishers left was not filled with other publishers or other companies. It just felt like an event that was on the downside of its history instead of on the upswing, and it should absolutely be on the upswing with Generation 9 consoles coming. So yeah, E3, the ESA for giving everybody all my contact information. At least they don't ask for our social security numbers, I guess. But people have everything else, and it's just floating out in cyberspace now. So
yeah, luckily I was there with a big outlet, so I don't think any of my information was in there because they were just registered as one big company.
Yeah.
But all the individuals, all the freelancers, all those people got screwed.
Yep. And
hard.
I don't care what Pactor says about it. He's wrong.
No, that's really one of the dumbest takes of the year on that one. It's just like, yeah, I know it didn't affect you. It didn't affect me either, but that doesn't make it not a thing. Like, I know multiple people who had to, like, go through all the changing their address again because their stalkers found out where they live, or like the harassment started again. Or
Did you see the discussion between he and I on Pactor Factor?
Nah, I walked away from the computer when
that's right. You mentioned
during
that
the
last
credits.
Week. Yeah,
and I didn't. I heard you talking, but I was like, oh, he's talking a lot because usually it's just like a weird little like one-liner or something at the end. I didn't realize it was a whole conversation.
Well, it was me expressing my displeasure with his excuse for why he said the things he said. I just told him I thought he was wrong, and nothing he said was going to. You talked to him a little bit about before when he gave the answer, and it was a very choicely put "Okay, Boomer." Yeah. Some people on YouTube thought that was all set up. It was not. It just literally that happened like 2 days after I ever heard of OK Boomer, and it was just the perfect moment to use it. And
it's exactly what it's for.
There it was, absolutely. So my picks: E3 2019 and the ESA, and all the mess that came with it. All right. It's time for our winners or losers, depending on how you look at it, for our Turkey Awards. Matt, what wins your Turkey Award for 2019?
It would be Google Stadia.
Yeah. I have a feeling this would be on a lot of people's lists.
I have not actually played it, but I've seen it, and I just, again, like I said, Shenmue 3, I see the reason you do it. Like it's like, I mean, people lost their shit when they announced that. Google Stadia, like I understand the application that like a lot of my friends who work in the industry like think it's a basically a Trojan horse to get into the Indian and Chinese game markets, which makes sense there. But in terms of trying to make it into a big launch in the West, in North America, which it wasn't even. It was like the softest launch around because
yep.
You had people from
because they wanted it that way.
People from the company offering to hand deliver the founders packages to people in the Bay Area because they weren't going to ship them out in time.
Yeah.
Just bad. Like it's not really even the reviews that are like, oh, the text really impressive. Do not buy this.
Yeah, like, I think it's honestly even worse than you think it is.
I do have a friend who works very directly in kind of the biz dev world, and I mentioned Stadia stuff to him, and he said, Google Stadia is dumber than you even think it is, and that's all I can say about it.
Well, I think the launch has been worse than a lot of people know.
Yeah, but apparently the behind-the-scenes stuff is even worse than we would imagine.
Wow.
So, again,
no 4K.
Maybe I should add this to Shenmue 3 and Star Citizen as my most wanted Jason Schreier deep dives, because it sounds like some real stuff happened here.
Well, you have to realize that they're charging for 4K 60. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, next year, it's free. 1080p, 60, free next year. So what you're going to pay for is 4K.
What you're going to pay for is games you don't own.
And games that you don't own. But what your people who have it now, who have spent the $130, that's what they're paying for, though. Like, the whole thing is insane.
And it doesn't run as,
it does.
The
So
Red
there's
Dead
no
Redemption
4K
2 stuff.
60.
Yeah.
There's no such thing at launch.
And RDR2 doesn't even look as good as it does on the Xbox One X.
Because it's not the 4K version of it. They have used the 1080p versions of games and upscaled them to 4K. So what these people pluck down their $130 for, they're not even getting. It's nuts. Mm-hmm. I mean, that doesn't mean it's going to fail, but they botched their launch pretty bad. There's no reason this should have come out before it was done. There's no reason. What good does it do to get those units out in November?
I don't know. All I can think is there must have been contracts to fulfill somehow.
Maybe some of the games had to come out on Stadia before the end of 20. I don't know. But you're right on the money for your Turkey Award. Absolutely. All right. It's time for me to pick my winner or loser for the Turkey Awards for 2019. And this might surprise some people, but my pick is PlayStation. Just PlayStation. I feel like PlayStation has had a horrible year on a number of different fronts. The most important to me...
A great many things.
Yeah, the most important to me among those fronts is the games and the lack thereof. I mean, look, we've seen it from Sony the last couple generations. It gets towards the end and things start disappearing. They start shoveling stuff towards the next console. I feel like this was the worst example of it from the last couple generations from Sony. Several big games from this year pushed into next year, conceivably to help bolster PlayStation 5. Instead, all we get is Days Gone and Death Stranding. Death Stranding had the potential, I feel like, to kind of save the year. It didn't for me. So on the software front, this was one of the worst years for first-party PlayStation software in a long, long time.
I have a hard time disagreeing with that.
Yep. And then you start...
I'm trying to think of other things, and
that's all there was. And some VR stuff. Some
VR
PlayStation
stuff,
VR
and
stuff.
maybe a couple smaller.
Yeah, like Concrete Genie.
Concrete Genie.
Yep. It was a terrible year for software from PlayStation. Next up, no events. It's like PlayStation didn't exist in 2019. They didn't show up at E3. They haven't been at anything. They were at Gamescom. They had a booth.
Gamescom. They did every once in a while, Death Stranding would rear its head in some kind of release. Yeah, they've been a non-entity.
They bailed on the industry in 2019. They basically just said, you know what? We're good. We got a lead that nobody can overtake.
I mean, they did
we're going to put it on autopilot.
What is it? The State of Play? Is that what they did? They did some of those.
Yeah, their version of the Nintendo Directs or whatever. They did 2.
I think 3.
3 this year?
Yeah, because there was the one and the one better one, and then the third one was pretty good.
Yeah. They're the industry leader, and you'd never know it by looking at 2019 in any way, shape, or form. Whether you talk about game output, whether you talk about messaging to consumers, whether you talk about events that you have for consumers, they've dropped the ball on all of them. And then the final icing on the cake for me is something I think a lot of people forgot, and that is the value of PlayStation Plus. People, it's so funny how we have been conditioned to spend $50 or $60 a year to just play games online. Mm. It's crazy. Because at first, online was free, and then Xbox Live came along, and we were like, oh, we got to pay. We usually don't have to pay for this. Oh, but it has all this cool stuff. And so, okay, if it'll organize me and my friends, it'll make it easy to communicate with them, I'll spend the money. It makes sense to me. And then, of course, with the free games with Xbox Live and blah, 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 it adds extra value. when you start looking at PlayStation Network now, I would argue it's still not up to snuff with Xbox Live as far as like party chat and a lot of the more peripheral features that you get with Xbox Live.
Honestly, just stability.
And just stability, download speed, pretty much any metric that I could measure both of those services on, I feel like Xbox Live wins. And now it's winning even more because Sony decided to take away the Vita and PlayStation 3 games from PlayStation Plus and not replace them with anything. And I think the first month, Sony did a pretty good job of having a couple big games loaded up to try to soften the blow. Now that we're into it, though, we're getting basically the same games that we got for PlayStation Plus before, except we're just not getting 2 or 3 more games. In some cases, like 4 or 5 more games you would get between PS3 and Vita in a given month. So the value, and they raised the price of PlayStation Plus. So they take all this stuff away and then raise the price. So adding all this stuff up across 2019, PlayStation is my Turkey Award winner for the year. Do you think people are going to have a problem with that?
I mean, I think people were maybe expecting Blizzard to get tagged because they certainly had their number of unforced errors. But here's the thing: Sony's behavior this year was frustrating. But the thing about it, maybe this just makes it more frustrating, is not going to matter.
Oh, it won't. Yeah.
It's soon as they put out Last of Us 2, all will be forgiven.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
I mean, it's not just them. That happens in general.
Yeah.
Nintendo's very much like that.
That was like that. I mean, it's not like Bethesda had a banner year in terms of output.
Yep.
But Sony's the one who just decided to stop talking to us. So
yeah,
it was
and act like we didn't exist. By the way, we do a Sifted Countdown every month.
They're like, what are you going to do? Like, not buy Ghost of Tsushima?
Right.
I'm like, yeah.
Or not buy the PlayStation 5?
I suppose.
That doesn't mean we can't take them to task
No.
when they screw up, though.
No.
And that's exactly what I'm doing.
I mean, I think what Blizzard did was dumber, but, like,
it was like
Sony did it all year.
I considered Blizzard, and I'm like, it was one big mistake. Mm-hmm. But I look at what PlayStation has done throughout this year, and it also kind of started Q4 of last year, too. Let's not forget. Yeah. Last Christmas was bereft of anything for PlayStation. So it's actually been going on now for like 15, 16 months, not just the last year.
Yeah, really, the last major PlayStation release was Spider-Man.
Yep. I mean, honestly, it was. So at least one that people would consider buying a console for sure. So
like, no one's buying a console for Days Gone.
Nope. And obviously, they're not buying it for Death Stranding.
It appears they're not buying for Death Stranding, considering how many Best Buy's trying to get rid of right now.
Because now you can buy the Death Stranding PS4 Pro for $300.
Yep.
So, yeah, people aren't buying hardware for that game, obviously. So, and look, next year, PlayStation could turn it all around. It could absolutely do everything the opposite of what it did this year. It's going to have a new console. I highly doubt that it will be even a nominee in my Turkey Awards for probably the next 5 or 6 years. But PlayStation really just dropped the ball on the end of this generation, in my opinion.
Yeah, although the Turkey Awards probably was a more crowded nomination field than the Game of the Year was.
Yeah. Oh, it is. Well, so here's the thing. We're doing a Sifted Countdown.
Fallout first.
We're going to do the top 10 gaming turkeys for 2019. And I'm not going to say that any of the things we've talked about right here, except for my winner, it'll definitely be in the list. But we're going to count down the 10 kind of biggest turkeys. And that should be going up tomorrow evening on Sifted and on our Patreon. And then it'll be on YouTube probably on Thanksgiving or the day after Thanksgiving. So if you watch this show on YouTube, it should be up on our channel at the time you watch this.
Thanks for subscribing, Dave Jaffe.
The Jaffe stream. Is that actually Jaffe?
I think it is.
Is it? What's up, Jaffe? Haven't seen you for a while, brother. What have you been up to? Hope you're doing good, man. Is that really you, Jaffe? I can't remember what his Twitch name is.
I think it is the Jaffe
I think it
stream.
is, yeah, because I go to his streams like pretty regularly. There you go. What's up, David? Hope you're doing well, man. Hope you have a good Thanksgiving and everything. So, anyways, time for our trailer of the week. It was a terrible week of trailers. I mean, terrible.
I mean, other than Half-Life, yeah.
Yeah, and we obviously we needed to run that to talk about it.
Couldn't hold that.
Yeah, I wish Jaffe had been around for the last, like, 30 minutes when we were talking about all this PlayStation stuff
I
because
assume that was what summoned him.
he could have just set it straight right there in the chat, man. I wish you were around. You missed it, but you have to watch the archive. But anyway, it's a terrible week for trailers. The only good one was Half-Life, and we used that in the show when we talked about Half-Life Alyx. So the trailer of the week this week, I will admit it's weak. It's for the first story-based DLC for Borderlands 3. It's called Borderlands 3 Maxie's Heist of the Handsome Jackpot. Clever play on words there by 2K. As you know, while we're running the trailer of the week, it's your chance to get your questions into chat. Go at Sifted Games when you ask a question. That way we can find them easily when we go to answer the questions. Also is now a great time, as Jaffe just did. He subscribed via Twitch Prime as well. That's freaking awesome. Thanks, David. Now's a great time to subscribe via Twitch Prime because we can see them. And when we come back from the trailer of the week, I can thank all you guys personally, which I care about a lot. So if you do that, that would be great. Until then, here's our trailer of the week.
Hey, Sugar, I've got a little proposition for you, if you're feeling lucky. I'm talking loot, but not just any loot. Handsome Jack's Casino. This heist, it's personal. He stole my designs to build this place. Taking it back is scratching him out of my books forever. Stay sharp, Sugar. Hope you're ready for action.
So, you going to jump back into Borderlands 3 with the first story DLC?
I don't even have it installed.
You uninstalled it?
Yeah.
I had to do a lot of uninstalling over the last, 2 weeks. Because I hadn't done any of it pretty much the entire year, and all these games started coming out. And then Modern Warfare is already 110 gigs or something ridiculous. They've had 2 12-gig patches in a week.
Wow.
For Modern Warfare.
That's a lot.
And it still doesn't fix a lot of the problems people have with it. So I don't know what the
Did
hell
they
they're
fix
doing
the
with.
footstep thing?
No.
No?
Nope. Still
That
not
seems
fixed.
like just a switch you need to flip.
Yeah, just a slider. Maybe Jaffe can tell us how hard it is to turn down the footsteps in Call of Duty. It doesn't seem like it would be that tough, but for whatever reason, it wasn't in the new patch. So still, first of all, the audio in that game is so loud. So my receiver starts at 80, and as you turn it up, it goes down. So when you get to 0, it's as loud as possible. Mm-hmm. When I watch TV on my receiver or play any other game, my receiver is always between 25 and 35, and that's loud. That's
about where I play.
You're experiencing it. I cannot play Modern Warfare on anything lower than 65 out of 80.
Wow.
It literally will explode my apartment. I don't know what they did to the game. It's like they just turned up the audio level. And like you said, the footstep sound effects, while you're playing, they're so loud. You could hear somebody 80 yards away walking. You're like, where the hell's that? There's nobody here. They need to fix it, but they haven't yet. All right, let's get to some questions. Erebus Jones, thank you. 17 months of Twitch Prime. That's awesome. Freeze frame rate, 16 months. Thank you very much. Any other guys want to do it right now? We can thank you. As we said, David Jaffe, thank you for subscribing via Twitch Prime. You rock. Let's get to some questions. Commander Fett03, what are some of your holiday drinks and beers?
I guess I'm really more of a mulled apple cider person. I don't drink a whole lot of alcohol these days.
I don't either. I hardly ever drink anymore. It's crazy. I drink once every 3 or 4 months, maybe.
Mm-hmm. I haven't had anything to drink, I think, since August.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't like how I feel the next day anymore. It's not worth it anymore.
Yeah, part of it is just I've never been a huge fan of alcohol in general in terms of drinking.
Well, I have.
And so
I definitely have.
I drink to get drunk.
Yeah, so do I.
And,
yeah, I don't drink alcohol because I like the taste of it.
Right.
I drink to get drunk and have fun. That's what I do.
I just don't I don't know. Like you say, the next morning is harder and harder to power through at our age.
It's not worth it anymore.
And and also it's I feel like I don't need it.
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, I'd want to go out and pick up girls or hang with the boys or whatever. All my boys have 3 kids. just life changes, and like you don't have really the opportunity to do stuff like that. I don't really have people to even drink with if I wanted to, because nobody drinks. They all have families and wives and houses and all this other boring crap. That's just the way life is. But I'll say this, like I'm definitely drinking on Thanksgiving. My buddy is having his big Thanksgiving soiree, and I'm just gonna drink vodka and Red Bull like I do every other time I drink. That's all I drink. I'll drink beers here and there, but if I'm gonna drink to get drunk, I drink vodka and Red Bull. It's the drink of champions.
That doesn't work on me because if the vodka and Red Bull seems to cancel itself out to me. I don't get more and more drunk. I get even. Like it keeps me.
That's why I like
even.
it. That's why I like it though, because you still have the drunkenness, but you have like an edge to you where you're still kind of alert and with it. You're not like this blah, like drunk person. I don't know. Anyway, let's get to another question. ETH Demon. I know Cyberpunk 2077 traffics well. But do you think that translates to larger sales? Historically, Cyberpunk as a genre has never been mainstream. P.S. It's the game I want the most. Or ETH Demon, I think you're not alone on that. I think a lot of people feel like Cyberpunk 2077 is their most anticipated game. Yeah. And it bears out in the traffic on Sifted.
Anecdotal, but I have had enough of my friends who are just super casual gamers, like especially up from where I grew up north, messaging me about this game.
Yeah.
Like they know about this game. They knew about this game after the Keanu Reeves thing. They knew about it a year or more before it came out. Like, they are aware of it. And the fact that it, most people don't know that Cyberpunk was a pen and paper RPG back in the 80s. But the fact that it's called Cyberpunk is helping it because everyone knows what Cyberpunk is as a genre. They know what the look is. They've seen The Matrix. They know what it is. And the fact that they can look at that and be like, yeah, that's Cyberpunk, and just be like, yeah, that's what I want to play, is going to help it immensely.
Yeah.
The fact that it has such a generic title is actually, for once, going to help.
Yeah, because it will help the casuals understand at least a little bit about the game.
It says what it does. It does what it says.
Yeah,
like, that's all.
And it has a date in it, so it's like future. Yeah, I will say this: like, just because something does a lot of traffic on Sifted, you're right. It does not guarantee that it's going to sell well. There are certain games that they're really hardcore, and let's be honest: if you're using Sifted, you're really hardcore. Otherwise, you're getting your crap from Twitter or Facebook. The really hardcore people, they know about Cyberpunk, and they know about this game, and they know about every game. So just a blurb that we write for a trailer or something on Sifted, it can motivate you guys to watch the trailer because we know certain key terms that you guys are looking for to help you figure out whether you're interested in a game or not. So some stuff will do traffic on Sifted because we know you guys and we know what you're looking for, but may not actually hit with the mainstream. But I agree with Matt. This game is absolutely going to. We haven't even started the marketing campaign for this thing yet. Once that starts, it's going to kick. Once they start
wrapping buses in that eye-searing yellow, it's definitely.
And once they say from the creators of The Witcher 3. I mean, everybody knows that it's Game of the Year, a unanimous Game of the year it came out. So I think this game is going to sell very, very, very well. Even if it doesn't get like a 9 or higher review score, I still think it's going to sell very, very well. So, good question. Next up, from Super Cordon Bleu, Matt, how excited would you be at the idea of a Shenmue 3 / Death Stranding crossover?
I admit, Rio would probably fit pretty well in that world.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird.
I'm here with your box.
There are similar threads between the two games, for sure. And that's probably why I don't like either one of them.
Two different takes on tedium as gameplay.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So this was a joke, obviously. From Vincent, which KS game?
Kickstarter
game. Clearly aimed towards fans was worse at launch. Shenmue 3 or Yooka-Laylee? Great question.
I mean, I played Yooka-Laylee more willingly.
Yeah. Shenmue's way worse. Way worse. Like, Yooka-Laylee felt like a carbon copy of something else, but it was competent. This game is not competent.
Well, I mean, Shenmue is competent. It's just a carbon copy of a worse thing.
I don't think it's competent.
I mean, I think it is competent because they're making choices to be that.
I'm not 100% sure that's the case.
I am absolutely 100% sure. I mean, not like the fighting being like mushy and unresponsive. That's not intentional.
But all the other broken stuff, like the dialogue that just says the wrong thing and the subtitles that don't match. Well, the subtitles don't match. And watching the cinemas sort through, trying to figure out which one to play.
Yeah, but the old games do that too. The subtitle thing, what's it called? not Wildlands. Breakpoint. Breakpoint still doesn't fix the
No, yeah, it
subtitles
has
on that
goofy
too.
subtitles.
So
too.
that can just happen. But what I'm saying is like
No, this game, that Breakpoint has like 2.
Breakpoint.
The whole game, none of the dialogue matches the subtitles. None of it.
Well,
Like if you go word for word, I did not see a single line that was word for word accurate in the subtitles.
I've seen it's 90% accurate from what I've been playing. I haven't seen that much. I mean, I've seen a lot of disconnect. I've seen a lot of typos, like just random D's
Or
in
missing words.
It's just, I mean, that's a real minor thing. What I'm saying is they're both replicating this old game, and they're replicating it pretty exactly. The difference with Yooka-Laylee is that Yooka-Laylee replicates the old Banjo game with almost no enhancement and no embellishment, whereas the things that really turned me off on Shenmue 3 are the things they changed.
Right. Okay.
So Yooka-Laylee succeeds a little more, literally by being less creative.
SJD Swanland. I always thought Knives Out looked bad in the trailers, but now seeing that it has a really good Rotten Tomatoes score, I want to see it. Can you remember a movie or a game that had horrible trailers that you decided to give a shot based on review scores?
No.
Blair Witch Project.
I mean, there's movies I've seen anyway, even though I thought the trailers looked bad and thought they were really good. That happens pretty regularly because a lot of trailers are bad. As a matter of fact, I would say the movies that most consistently that happens with me is Pixar. I think Pixar movies have terrible trailers. And a lot of times when I see Pixar trailers, they just do nothing for me, and I end up skipping them in the theater, and then I see them on home video or on a cable or on demand or Netflix or whatever, and I'm like, man, I wish I'd seen that in the theater because I really liked it. Except the trailer made me think it was going to be bad. And I should know not to trust them by now, but I still get fooled sometimes.
Yeah.
Also, any Sony movie I liked had a bad trailer because all Sony trailers are bad.
I think a lot of people would probably say Get Out is a movie that falls into that category. Like
I don't
it was one
remember
of
the
those
trailers for Get Out.
Nobody does, because nobody knew that the movie even really existed until the reviews started coming out. And people were like, what? What's this movie? Like, it's getting, like, perfect scores. And that was a movie for me that, like, the reviews kind of, I didn't know about it. And I'm a horror guy. And I didn't know about it. And then the reviews started coming out, and then I started investigating. I was like, oh, okay. Knives Out is actually kind of similar to Get Out.
I guess.
It's got that same kind of style to it.
A little bit. I mean, it's more of a whodunit sort of thing. I mean, I'll see it because it's Rian Johnson. I think Rian Johnson's one of the best filmmakers of his generation.
Yep.
If you haven't seen Brick, go take a look at Brick. Brick is great. I don't know when I'll get to Knives Out because it's a busy time, but I'll get around to it.
Okay.
I haven't actually seen the trailers for Knives Out, so.
Oh, hey, so David Jaffe replied to our question about adjusting the music. This is great. In most games, characters and individual sounds have emitters that you can set parameters on. The only thing I can think of, and this is just spitballing, is that the footsteps are tied into a pack of other emitters, and if they turn down the pack, it'll turn down a lot of other things that would hurt the game more. Maybe they have to extract the footstep emitter and put it on a unique slider, but that's just guessing. It is very strange. Thank you very much, David Jaffe. I wish you were in here every episode. We have questions like this every episode where we're like, we think we know what we're talking about, but we don't know 1,000%. So if you want to come back every Tuesday at 1 p.m., we would love to have you, David. Thank you for taking the time to comment. Han Low Blow. Modern Warfare is super blown out on speakers. It seems like it's made for headsets because it's not as intense. So somebody else is having problems with the audio in Modern Warfare, not just me.
I thought the audio on Modern Warfare was actually really good on my system.
It's good. It's just really loud.
It is very loud.
It's crazy how loud
I figured that was intentional. The footsteps, though, are clearly not intentional.
Oh, yeah, it is a problem. It's a mistake they need to fix. Joaquin Dragoon, are you surprised that Kingdom Hearts 3 wasn't considered for anything?
Nope.
No. No, we're not.
Not at all.
I mean, thinking about the game now, is there anything that it could be nominated for?
I mean, maybe graphics.
Presentation, yeah.
Like graphics
Graphically, it's pretty impressive.
They did some really good.
There are moments where it's not, but
yeah, but they replicated like the Disney World. I mean, the Tangled World is just nailed it.
I'm surprised there isn't like a best licensed interpretation award. Seriously though, because usually those awards are tossed in there for Keighley to get sponsors.
But even then, you'd still lose to Death Stranding's monster cans. So
nice. Not Cirque. My coworker's son, who is 8, is interested in getting a console. He already has a Switch. I recommended a PS4. Would you recommend that as well? Yes.
I guess. You'd want to look at the title. I mean, most of the titles I would recommend to someone on PS4 are not suitable for an 8-year-old.
Oh, that's true. That's a good point.
I would have his dad look very, very carefully at the list, at the roster.
That's a really good point. I mean, generally, when people ask me what console they should buy, and I've been doing this for like 20 years, I always say, just look at the exclusive games for each one and pick the one you like the best. And it's never been more true than now, because really, except for Switch, everything comes out on everything now. So, and it's only going to get crazier with Stadia and all these streaming services coming. Like, I don't know. I guess maybe the better question is, should he buy a PS4 at all right now?
It's a good question.
I mean, maybe the better question is like...
if you're going to buy one, it's this week.
Yeah, when it's dirt cheap.
When it's cheap.
Yeah.
But if you...
you're just 12 months away from PS5. Dad might want to consider, like, let's wait till PS5.
Or get a cheap PS4 later next year and then keep Junior occupied with that while he plays the PS5.
That's true. That's a good point as well. We'll take a couple more. Not Cirque, thank you for subscribing with Twitch Prime. Rosencrantz, have you been using the Xbox Elite Controller Series 2? I have not. I feel terrible about it. Part of it is that I don't have a game to play on Xbox right now. I've been playing PS4 for pretty much everything. The other part is I want to like do an unboxing review of it, and maybe next week I'll publish that. So I have not had a chance to try it yet. And also, obviously, I'll share my impressions of it, and have to find a place of Battlefield or something to really give it kind of a workout. Here's another comment from Jaffe. It may also have something to do with what tuning is done at a local level versus at the server level. I'm sure there's a reason that you'll go, oh crap, right, when you hear it, but hard to guess. Sucks, though. Thanks again, man. Eric Scott, thank you for subscribing via Twitch Prime. X-Lord Xerxes, what are your opinions on HBO Watchmen? I have not watched it yet.
Neither have I. I've heard it's good, though.
I've heard good things about it. I've heard some people say that they've been disturbed by it. But they didn't provide...
Disturbed by it?
Yeah, they said that there was stuff in it that bothered them. I don't know what that was. I didn't ask
It's Watchmen, there should be.
There should be. That's the IP.
But apparently the last episode was a game changer.
Was it?
So, episode 6.
I have them all recorded on DVR, so I'm definitely going to watch it. I just haven't really had time.
Yeah.
Also,
I was kind of... the positive response would probably get me in there. I originally had no interest because, A, Watchmen doesn't need a sequel, and B, Damon Lindelof. But apparently it's good, so I'll give it a shot at some
I'm going to watch it.
I got a bunch of stuff on the burner. I haven't even watched the 3rd episode of The Mandalorian yet.
Oh.
So.
Busy guy. Joaquin Dragoon, thank you for the bits. Hallelujah. Look at all the bits. Awesome. Thank you. That's great. Let's see if we have any more questions. Erebus Jones, if power and cost are the same, how does Sony convince my casual brother the PS5 is a machine to buy without a like-for-like Game Pass service? The games.
Yeah, Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's
God
the software.
It's the game.
It's the stuff you can only play on PlayStation. And look, your brother who's casual may not care for Sony. Maybe he likes Halo and Gears of War more than stuff like The Last of Us or God of War. I don't know. I don't know him, but that might be the case. And in that case, maybe Xbox is best. Again, like I said, when you're trying to figure out what console you want, look at the exclusive games and make your choice that way. So if your brother likes Halo, Gears, whatever, he needs to get an Xbox. If he likes all Sony's first-party stuff, he should get a PS5. One Super Master Gamer. So what does the next Metroid need to do to impress you guys and gaming critics in general? To impress me, it just needs to be a good game.
Yeah.
That's it.
It needs to be a good game and needs to give me an option to not use Waggle.
Yeah.
I would like to not have to be using
You
motion
should not
controls.
be forced to use Waggle. But other than that, being developed by Retro Studios is generally good enough for me.
Or at least it was in the distant
It
past
was,
when
yeah.
they made games.
Their last couple games, even though they've been reworks, they still were really quality products.
Mm-hmm.
So at least we know the programmers and the QA and all that stuff is still up to scratch. We'll see creatively if they still have that spark. But generally, if it's a Metroid Prime game made by Retro Studios, I'm going to be impressed. That's just kind of the way it is. Dinky Do 15. Hey Matt, I always enjoy you talking about movies. I'd love to hear your opinion about Joker and the new Star Wars movie in December.
Well, first, if you're asking me about Joker, you probably don't want to hear my opinion about Joker because I thought it was terrible.
Yeah, he doesn't like it.
Second, this new Star Wars movie. Obviously, I have.
How's it tracking, Matt?
It's tracking.
Is it? I don't mean like financially. I mean, is it going to be good?
Oh, who knows? Nobody knows really much about it. There's a bunch of leaks about it. They're questionable, but like, who knows? A real script almost got sold on eBay. I
saw that.
One of the actors who they will not name left it in a hotel room.
Yeah,
but they got it back.
What a mistake.
I think it was the guy who played Hux. I have absolutely no evidence or reason to believe that, but I just like to think it was him.
Yeah.
I got to admit I'm worried. I mean, it's not a secret. I like Force Awakens. I love The Last Jedi. I really liked Rogue One, and I hated Solo. So the Disney era is going pretty well for me, but J.J. Abrams hasn't finished a story since Felicity.
Wow.
Going way 22
back.
Years ago or something like that. And it's written by Chris Terrio, who did write Argo, but he also wrote Batman vs. Superman. So I'm curious whether we're getting Argo Chris Terrio or Batman v Superman Chris Terrio, because those are two very different Chris Terrios.
You would hope you're getting the better version.
I hope so. I mean, there's a lot of eyes on the pot for a Star Wars movie, so I'm hoping there's some. But it didn't stop Solo from being one of the most boring things I've ever seen.
It really was boring.
So I don't know. I am very concerned about episode 9.
I don't want to hear that. That's not what I want to hear.
I don't have any reason to think that in terms of concrete evidence, but I'm saying, like, the people working on it, the fact that J.J. Abrams is not really much of a story ender, and I think Force Awakens has a lot of very strange omissions in the storytelling that, like, make it a weird, uneven watch. And as a matter of fact, one of the holes in that story was plugged by Fallen Order. Like, they actually reveal the origin of the Starkiller base in Fallen Order with very, very subtly.
Wow. I didn't even pick up on that.
Because it's literally just a shot, one shot. It's literally a shot of one of the planets you're going to, and it's like, oh, that's Starkiller base.
Wow. That's crazy.
Which confirms what planet people have thought it's been for several years, but it finally confirmed that's it. So basically, how did the First Order build this giant planet-sized superweapon? They didn't. The Empire was working on it for decades, and the First Order came in and fixed it.
Wow.
Fixed it, or finished it.
There you go.
But I have my tickets. I'm ready to go. Going with a big group of people is going to be very exciting. But, like, let's be honest. The majority of Star Wars films I've gone to see opening night in the theater have been bad.
Well,
so, like, because I wasn't alive.
It's going to get me back to the theater, and I haven't been to the theater since the last Star Wars movie.
I think it's going to be very successful. It's sold. The pre-orders outsold Avengers Endgame in terms of speed the first 24 hours. So clearly the interest is there.
Yeah.
Gonna be a big hit. Will it be as big a hit as it needs to be? I don't know. It does seem to be delving into the relationship between Kylo Ren and Rey. I mean, Chris Terrio has talked about it in a very weird quote where he's like, "That's obviously like a very big thing. It's important, and I hope we have we touch on that in the film." Like, what do you mean you hope? You wrote it.
You know what?
Do you or don't you? Like, what?
That's crazy.
But yeah, I mean, I like the new trilogy, and I hope it ends well. But I feel like it's going to end up in the same position that the original trilogy was for me, which is like, I like the first one, I love the second one, and I can deal with the third one.
I don't hate Return of the Jedi.
I don't hate Return of the Jedi. I just think it's the weakest of the three by far.
Sure. Yeah,
and is the first moment where you if you stand and look at Star Wars like with adult eyes, as I did when the THX remasters came out. I watched them all, and I was like, what the hell was that? Like, if Return of the Jedi came out today, like, people would rip it apart on Twitter. It's like the first act has nothing to do with the rest of the story. They've done nothing for a year, and suddenly Luke's way better at being a Jedi than he was before. I guess he was doing a lot of calisthenics or something.
Like, that matters to a Jedi.
Like they have nothing to do with Han Solo through the whole movie, and like Harrison Ford barely seems to know what to do with the terrible dialogue he's given. The scene on the Ewok treehouse where they reveal that Leia's his sister is really hard to watch.
That might be the worst scene in Star Wars. It's original trilogy.
Yeah, definitely original trilogy. I don't know if it's worse than I Hate Sand, but from Episode 2, but it's pretty bad. And like, when I was 7 years old, I didn't buy the thing that they're brother and sister, like, because all they wanted to do was explain that there is another thing from Empire Strikes Back, which was there to set up the second trilogy, where he was supposed to go find his sister out on the Outer Rim, and they were supposed to go find the Emperor, who wasn't even supposed to appear until Episode 9. But they needed to explain it because Lucas decided he didn't want to do anymore, and there's like, it's Leia. was make it Leia, and so that's why Empire spends so much time setting up a love triangle, and like she kisses him more than like anyone else in the whole series.
Yeah,
except because they didn't know she was his sister until the third movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, Return of the Jedi is kind of the first prequel when you really look at kind of the structure and sort of how little that hangs together.
Yeah.
And Episode 1 in the end really shouldn't have surprised any of us if we were looking at it with honest eyes.
There you go. And that's it for GameFace 192. Before we go, I again want to remind you we're going to be giving away 6 loot boxes in December. You still have a few days to bump up your pledge to be eligible on our Patreon for those loot boxes. It's going to be a great December. If you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening on Google Play or Apple Podcasts, it would be great if you guys could hook us up on our Patreon at patreon.com/sifted. Even $1 a month makes a huge difference for us. If everybody jumps in, and even if everybody just gave us $1, it would make a huge difference to our business. I know to you guys, you may say it's $1. Well, for us, those dollars add up. So if you're watching this for free on YouTube or you're on any of the podcast services where we appear, maybe just for December you could pledge. That would be sweet. We'll take whatever you got. But anyway, we'll be back next Tuesday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. I don't know what the hell we're going to be talking about because there's not a lot going on in the industry right now, but we will absolutely be here.
We can only hope Randy Pitchford does something crazy.
Or somebody does. Here's the thing. After we finish the show a lot, like I think about the next week immediately, and I'm like, what are we going to talk about next week? Something always happens. It always does. It's just the way it is.
It's not a boring world.
It's definitely not. So
that's not in this industry.
Yeah, for sure. So that's it for GameFace 192. We only have a few more episodes. 3?
I think 3. Yeah,
like 3 episodes left for the year, and one of those will be our Game of the Year. So we have 2 more regular episodes of GameFace before we're up and out for the entirety of 2019.
3rd, the 10th, and the 17th.
Yep. So Thanksgiving's 2 days away. Be careful, guys. I know I'm going to be drinking on Thanksgiving. I'm taking an Uber to and from where I'm going. I know drinking is a big deal on Thanksgiving for a lot of people. Be safe. We care about you guys. We want to see you on the other side. Take an Uber. Get a designated driver. Whatever. Have a great Thanksgiving. Have a safe Thanksgiving. Enjoy time with friends and family, and we'll see you on the other side. GameFace is up and out.